Now, I would like it to be cooler in this room because it's really super hot. Right now, I'm trying to invite as many people as I can. If you would invite some of your friends, that'd be super awesome.
Yeah.
Do y'all remember where we were yesterday? Do you remember what what show we were on?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what the name of the last one was?
Glitterati.
Glitterati.
Mm-hmm.
And what did we talk about, Duke?
We had a lot of stuff.
You don't remember any of the show? I thought you were paying attention.
It's about Seven McDonald, Nora Maccabee, Gwendolyn Coates, Christina Hollenbeck, Francis Fisher, all sorts of
Gwendolyn Cates.
Cates. I always want to call her
not
Coates.
Gwendolyn Cates, the one of the many documentary filmmakers that went out to make a movie at Standing Rock.
Yeah.
Did you realize there were so many unpaid extras at that film event? Because I don't think everybody knew that it was supposed to be an event for them to do their little docudramas.
Nope.
That can't be called a documentary because it was all fake.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
They hired movie extras to go and be there.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's not right.
Mm-mm.
And of course, they didn't want it to make it hide the way that they were making money pass hands from one person to another. So they try to do it all through GoFundMes and fundraisers, and giving it to these nonprofits and yada, 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 yada.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I don't think people realized was that the operation that took place that was called Standing Rock, where they robbed a bunch of people and took a bunch of sold out Indians to sell out their people and make all of these different kinds of weird energy agreements, it seems like, and movie deals and speaking deals that they're going around the world doing it now. Did you realize that stuff was planned in advance of that? That a lot of these people were already working together and planning on their bid for government, their bid for politics of some sort, or their next, movie gig, or their next acting gig, or their next whatever gig. Before Standing Rock, many of them we talked about on one of our shows way back when came from Occupy.
Yeah.
And guess who was the main organizer of the first Occupy movement with no centralized organization and no leadership? Who was that?
Winnie
Wong.
Winnie Wong.
It was Winnie Wong, the woman that appeared in my last show. One of the people that seems to be at the heart of the Bernie Sanders campaign. And a woman who of late has been hanging out with Linda Sarsour. Right? That's where we started. That was our last show. So if you are just joining us, tonight's show is Desert Storm. You're listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP, Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your state, to your town, to your station, to your airwaves. Tonight on A Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp
and Duke Gomez-Schempp.
We're going to dive back in. We're going to dive back in to where I left off with you. I told you that Linda Sarsour, I told you she has connections to some kind of sketchy people. Not the least of which is her relative, Salah Sarsour, who was involved in funding terrorist organization Hamas. Remember where we left off last time?
Yep.
Okay. So, and I hate to be using this source, but you may recall that we were talking about Winnie Wong and campaigning with Linda Sarsour. They were just out in Michigan. Because Linda Sarsour was basically the campaign manager of the doctor Abdul El Sayed that was running for governor of the state of Michigan. He was not successful, but they did pull out all the stops on trying to get him elected. These two women, among others, Shailene Woodley showed up. A lot of Maggie Days and I'm sure Wes Clark's too, and Seven McDonald's friends in the movie industry that went to Standing Rock ended up helping in these many campaigns that they're working here, because I've seen Shailene Woodley go from LA to Standing Rock, and then now she's in Michigan.
Yeah.
Or she was recently in Michigan, right?
Yeah, it really bothers me that a lot of these folks they use Standing Rock as street cred. You know, it's like, were you at Standing Rock? So you had all these actors and actual actors from Hollywood coming to Standing Rock to make appearances, to stand there, to donate money, to infiltrate, all sorts of things, to get arrested. And so they could kind of prance around with all this street cred. And a bunch of people came out that were going to run for office in the future, and Nazis, and all sorts of folks that came out there and got their street cred, and then they went off to do campaigns, and several of them in Michigan, and so to see Winnie Wong, her name, when you actually start searching back, it goes way back. Instigator, so supposedly not in control, no leadership. I never trust any organization, any movement of people that says we don't have any central leadership. That's a bunch of lies, because things don't happen without central leadership.
It's a way of obfuscating who the leaders are.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a way of hiding who's responsible when things go wrong.
Yep, exactly.
But Winnie Wong wasn't the only person that thought that this was a fantastic idea to carry on into Standing Rock and other organizing campaigns across the country. No, they're attaching themselves, they're making themselves adjacent to many organizations that are highly, highly problematic, that you Americans, that people in this country need to know about. So I'm here to tell you all about it. Hopefully you are sharing this out, and you're here to find out what really happened at Standing Rock. Okay? First, Duke, tell them how they can get a hold of us, how they can watch our other shows on our website, and whoever that was that called to say that my show is really negative, I figured out you're calling from Montana, so you can't even hear my show. Liar, liar, pants on fire. You just don't like the stuff that I'm talking about. That's too bad, because I'm going to keep bringing the truth to all my listeners and viewers.
That's right. Well, if you are living here in the Red River Valley, in Fargo-Moorhead, you can listen to 88.1 FM, 88.1 on your FM dial. We reach pretty much throughout Fargo-Moorhead, Dilworth, West Fargo communities, and outstretches around the city. We have a potential listenership of over 200,000 people. But we don't stream online. We just put it on the air, and we do all of our podcasts. So we put them on kpppfm.com. And that's where you can go and watch the podcast. We're taking the YouTube the Facebook podcast, video casts, live streams, and we're uploading them to YouTube, and then we're putting them on our webpage, because we want to have more of a permanent place for our videos to be, because
How far away is our dream?
Our dream?
Well, you said we were going to Periscope or something and then do it all at once or something.
I haven't done that yet.
Okay.
But, and the live stream. I've got the live stream to work with just one camera. I don't know how to use it with the software we use. But anyways, we're still going to do live streams on Facebook. We're going to figure out ways to do live streams simultaneously on other platforms, and I haven't done that work yet, but it's in the works. And go to kpppfm.com. And you can look at Mexican Crossing Lines, look at all the shows there, look at some of the other shows, Finding Me, and some of the other shows that we have on there. But we tend to take our shows and we strip the audio and we make it right for radio. Take out some of the breaks and all the swear words and that sort of thing. Sometimes we don't even play them on the air. And then that's one place to go where you can find us. And also you can look at the bottom of your screen and you can contact us at our message line. It's 701-566-0917. Again, it's a message line. You can leave a message, just like someone gave us a nasty message saying that this show isn't good for our radio station, and I find out he's out of Kalispell, Montana, and is associated with some sort of no-land furniture store. So Mr. No-Land Furniture Store, you can watch us on Facebook, and your complaint has been received. And so you can call that number and leave a message. It's 701-566-0917. another way is that you can just send us email. Cindy
Yeah.
at kpppfm.com or me, Duke at kpppfm.com. And you can follow Cindy's public Facebook page at Cindy Gomez-Schempp, and then also our page on Facebook, 88.1 Fargo Moorhead, 88.1 FM Fargo Moorhead. We have a couple other ones. We have the People's Press Project and Mexi-Can. And you can always write on our podcast at our kpppfm.com. You can comment there. You can do a contact form there. Do the email. Do the call in. Go to our Facebook pages, and there's many ways to get information to us. And we do thank you, people who do send us good information, and information we might already have, we might not. Had all sorts of leads from people over time that we would have never gotten that information if they weren't looking and seeing. And we do a lot of research. We're a nonprofit organization. We're not a commercial radio station, and so we raise our money by donations. We thank all of you who have donated in the past. You can go to kpppfm.com/donate. Find out more opportunities there. We have FCC allows us to do underwriting, which means that your name or business can sponsor a program.
That's right.
We put you on the air. There's some rates on there, and all of it's tax deductible.
Yeah, it's a really great way to try to get your name out there and write it off as a tax deduction. And it can support the very work that you guys have been listening to. And I know this can be a very complicated saga. It's got a lot of moving parts. If you haven't been following the Standing Rock story, let me summarize what we have learned for you. In the process of reporting on what was happening at the protest camp at Standing Rock in North Dakota, we learned about a woman who was falsely charged with elder abuse, and her mother was taken and thrown in a hospital and left there to die. We exonerated her, and we got her mother back home. Unfortunately, to an early grave because of the mistreatment that she had suffered for 6 months alone in a hospital. But what we learned in the course of exonerating this Kathleen Bennett, this woman who's completely innocent of all the charges, was that a lot of the people that were involved in the leadership of the camp, in the only mercenary known that we have proof got paid to commit a crime out there at Standing Rock against innocent Lakota women, Bill Running Fisher. He was with Wesley Clark Jr. He was hired by L'Oreal Blackshaw, the Michael Laywood Jr., and the Veteran Stand Organization. And he was paid by Sedef Buyakataman, who I showed you, along with her daddy. Well, they have a Razorback submarine. Yep. But I showed you they were having a meal. They were having on November 20th, the day that people were getting water cannoned out at Standing Rock. They were all having a picnic at Wesley Clark Jr.'s house. These two folks are part of the Turkish propaganda magazine called Turkish Forum, which was communicated directly to the email of the dictator of Turkey, Erdogan, son-in-law, Barat, part of Barat's box leak. I don't know if you heard about it on WikiLeaks. You can go and check out Kaya Alep Buyakataman and Sedef Buyakataman. Both appear in WikiLeaks many, many times for that reason. And now I have shown you how all of these people are connected to Bernie Sanders' campaign, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I know this stuff is upsetting, but we do have to tell you the truth so that you know what to do.
Yeah, so you can check it out yourself.
I want to show you a video with Linda Sarsour in the video at a conference asking for support for the Muslim doctor that she was trying to get elected in Michigan as Governor Abdul El-Sayed. And in this video, I want to just preface, it is a video of Linda Loomer, whom is, I don't like her. I think she's kind of crass, and I mean, people probably say the same thing about me, but what I'm saying is, this is not an endorsement of Linda Loomer in any way, but she is mentioning she's upset about the same thing that I saw in this video, except for different reasons. And I'm going to talk about the reasons that she mentions. But first, oh my God, did you get all those pictures that you had of the guy with the balls and stuff?
Nope.
I need you to get those.
Where do you want them?
Well, they're going to be right after this. So grab that, put that video on first.
I can't grab anything when I'm doing that.
Oh, you can't do it?
Nope, I have to do it live.
You do?
Wait till after the video.
Okay, play the video first, and I'll tell you.
Hey guys, Laura Loomer here. I'm about to show you the creepiest and the scariest endorsement for governor that was caught on camera that you'll ever see in your life. Check it out.
When I think about building power, I think about brothers like Abd Sayyid, who is in this room today, who is running to be the first Muslim governor of the state of Michigan. He can't, sisters and brothers, he's a wonderful brother. He's an inspiring brother. He is well qualified to be the next governor of Michigan, but he can't do that without you. That brother not only does he need your mashallah and bismillah and dua, he needs your money. And to my favorite person in this room, because that's mutual, is Imam Siraj Wahaj, who has been a mentor, a motivator, an encourager of mine, someone who has taught me to speak truth to power and not worry about the consequences, someone who has taught me that we are on this earth to please Allah and only Allah, that we are not here to please any man or woman on this earth. So I'm grateful to you, Imam Siraj, and you might think this is weird, but every once in a while when I get into that deep, dark place, Imam Siraj comes and talks to me, and that he helps me to emerge out of those spaces. So I'm grateful to you, Imam Siraj. May Allah bless you and protect you and keep you for a long time for our community, because we need you now more than ever.
As you can see, there's some pretty scary and disturbing things going on in Linda Sarsour's head. But what's even more disturbing and scarier than that is the fact that Abdul El Said, who's currently running to become the first Muslim governor of Michigan, didn't distance himself from Sarsour, even after she expressed admiration and support for Siraj Wahaj, who was a co-conspirator in the 1993 attempt to blow up the World Trade Center in New York. Siraj once said, "It's my duty and our duty as Muslims to replace the United States Constitution with the Quran." But wait, there's more. What's even more disturbing than that is the fact that El Said brought Linda Sarsour on to be his de facto campaign manager. Yes, you heard that correctly. His de facto campaign manager.
Oh. One of the places that I first learned of Linda Loomer was when I was investigating Cassandra Fairbanks, because apparently they were friends for a while. So, you know, I don't know what kind of a person or reporter Linda Loomer is. I don't necessarily like what I know about her so far, but she did take that clip of that video where, you know, they're talking, she's talking about the imam. She's talking in the masjid in New York, I believe, or it was at an annual conference. I'm sorry, but the point is that she is referring directly to the imam of the New York City, the Brooklyn-based mosque. Taqwa is the name of the mosque. Okay, it's in Brooklyn, and Siraj Wahaj is the imam of that mosque. And I recently told you that there was an incident that happened in the Taos Desert in New Mexico that was linked to this. And this imam is the grandfather of the child that was found in the desert dead. The desert compound that you heard of that had 11 children that were living in squalor in a bunker style camp.
Yep.
I mean, it looked like something out of Standing Rock, frankly, minus the bullets and the firing range.
Yep, exactly.
Because, I mean, it looked like, what did it look like to you, Duke?
Oh, it looked like, a makeshift structure. A lot of plastic things put together. There was some sort of building there, but they're talking about the squalor and the lack of food, and it's. I haven't heard really. I've seen some videos. We have some video footage that we're going to show tonight, but I haven't gotten. And they've done some aerial views, so it was like very isolated, and it looked very well traveled around it. And and it just made me wonder, how would you not have any supplies if there's a lot of traffic in and out? There weren't a bunch of vehicles there or anything.
No,
but it did look very much hard conditions, hot. It didn't seem like the electricity was wired out there. If they had some sort of electricity. I don't know what sort of plumbing they had, but there's a lot of activity going in on the ground and inside the buildings, and there was a lot of garbage strewn around. So, it did look like, people had been there for some time.
Yeah. So, this occurred on August 9th, I think. I think they found the children on August 9th. And here is an article from the Global News in Canada, I believe. Global News article. And it talks about the New York imam. And there's a video that goes with it. It's really interesting because he says he's shocked by this information. He said it was bizarre. And you know what I think is bizarre?
What?
That he thinks it's bizarre, that's his response. Like,
that
if somebody
bizarre.
Came and told you that your grandson and a bunch of other grandchildren that were also missing were all found in a compound that had a firing range.
Yeah.
Not just that guns were present, but that like lots of ammunition, lots of weapons, where kids were, 11 kids, and that they were in conditions of squalor. And that one of the kids, which is 3 years old, had been missing for a really long time, is missing and might be dead. The first thing that would come out of my mouth to say about that would not be, well, that's bizarre. Like,
no, it would be like, oh my God, my grandson is dead. How did he die? Where is he? How did he get there?
Why were there so many bullets there?
Yeah, we need to get to the bottom of what happened here. Is my son's involved? There needs to be some sort of justice here. This is horrible. This is horrible. It's devastating. There should be some emotion. I say it was really bizarre.
Well, yeah, it was a really bizarre reaction, I guess I would say, to what should be more of a explanation on his part to tell the public everything he can about his son and his son's behavior, because 2 of his sons were there and got arrested. And I'm going to take you through some of the details of what happened, or what they've learned that happened out there. So there was 11 children ranging in age from 1 to 15 years of age. They were found ragged and starving at a compound last Friday. And sheriff's deputies raided it. The kids were placed into protective custody, and the imam that I'm talking about here, Siraj Wahaj, has been said to be involved in the rescue effort. How this occurred is that the imam claims that he was notified by somebody that was inside of the compound, one of his own daughters, I believe, that they were starving and they needed food. And so he's the one that gave the information to the police, or to the sheriff's department or whatever, of their location. But they'd been searching for these people for a while, because I think it had been 8 months since they had abducted the children. Okay, so let me move to the next video. Here is one. You have 2, right?
Yeah.
These two videos are, first, I have one of the current event with the family of Imam Siraj. This is from Ali Abdul Karim, who is the security at Taqwa Masjid. Okay, so that's that current event with the family of Imam Siraj, Right there.
Okay, that one.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know what you called it, but it's the first one on the list.
Yeah. Hold on a moment.
Yes.
Brothers and sisters, inshallah, what I would like to do, because of and I said that in my earlier live stream, and in other words, put things in perspective so everybody can exactly know from an official account and from an official position, because you'll hear many comments being made from many particular different sources. So it's always good to hear from the sources that's considered more reliable, that's really close to the event, close to this situation, rather than people at a distance. As for myself, as I explained, that I am the head of security for Masjid al-Taqwa, and also I am the local security for the metropolitan area for Manor. Right? And I want to just convey that so that at least you can know my background and my qualification in respect to speaking to you. It's very important that we authenticate and we legitimize in terms of an official account and always consider the source in this respect. And remember, that information is coming from all different areas, and they're not coming from sound areas. They're coming from people who have an agenda, and the people who have a motive in respect to the Imam, in respect to Islam, in respect to the Muslims. And anytime people that don't have our interests at heart get wind of situations like this, they always look to see how much mileage from their perspective they can get out of it. So I always, as I said earlier, I always like to set the pace and the precedent in terms of where I'm coming from as a Muslim, and where we all should come from as a Muslim and as people of Scripture. And we should always start out with scriptures, and that's our criteria, that's our motivation, that's the position that we take. So.
What do you think about that, Duke? Because, he's making some accusations that non-Muslims get a hold of information like this story and sensationalize it because they're anti-Muslim. I mean, there is an anti-Muslim sentiment in this country and definitely in our president.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, it's a legitimate concern because when people of color are in any trouble in this society are demonized and their families are demonized. But when you have direct evidence and filming and all sorts of crimes that have been committed involving a bunch of children on a compound in the middle of the desert who were living in squalor, and two sons are arrested, your grandson is dead, and you have to look at these people that there's some sort of crimes being committed, and there's things that need to be talked about, and you can do that without being anti-Muslim. You can focus on trying to get to the bottom of a crime, and where people have been hurt, where property's been damaged, where there's guns and firing ranges, and it looks like there's a lot of violence.
The video that was for training,
yeah,
for a terror attack in schools.
So those things would put it on alert that you need to deal with the people, and you can do that without sensationalizing their religion or their color or their creed. You can do all that, and all media should act that way in the first place. It shouldn't have to be a caution.
But they don't, so it's
so there's legitimacy to that.
Yep.
But if you never then talk about anything else, or if you impede the investigation, or you're making public statements and that's all you're talking about, I don't know why you're doing that. Just stay out of sight is what I do.
Well, I want to tell you that the Imam said that his son worked for, when he was talking about what happened, and we're going to play a clip of his own press circle, press thing that he did. Not right now, though. We're going to be playing that coming up here in a moment. But during it, he says, in response to the fact that they found lots and lots of very high power semi-automatic, weapons and lots of ammunition. he responded to that in the video by saying, "Oh yeah, my son is a secure. He works for a security firm. My son is provides private security to corporate executives and celebrities for a New York company that he works for, and he was licensed to carry firearms in 36 states."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. Well, that's the reason why he's allowed to have guns, but why was he having the guns around the kids in the compound with the training video on how to do school shootings? That's the part I want to know more about, right? Because he didn't really, and, you know, the media, who they claim is being unfair to them, is calling the group they found there a group of radicalized people that were trying to commit a terror attack or that were planning a terror attack. Okay? So, his father described him as being his son, Siraj ibn Wahaj, as being high-strung, but not violent. Which, you know, kidnapping your kids and a bunch of other people and having them probably against their will out in the desert starving seems like a violent thing to do, but maybe. I don't see things the same way that Imam does. But he said that he wasn't, he also said he wasn't radical either.
Yeah.
Which, okay, like, this seems kind of far off. We're going to show you some more stuff so you can decide. Here's another video of the Imam's sidekick, the security, Ali, his security at the Taqwa Masjid. And it is entitled, these are all from his page. If you go on his page, you can find them there. This one is titled Update of the Case of the Family of the Imam. Here you go.
Inshallah, brothers and sisters in Islam, I just wanted to give again, as I stated and promised, inshallah, I will give you periodically updates about what's going on with this case and basically dispelling the propaganda information that's coming out from the government and the media. Alhamdulillah, myself and my brother Khalil, we picked up the Imam yesterday. So alhamdulillah, we picked him up and he's safe, and you will be hearing from him soon. We're gonna do our own media presentation. We're gonna inshallah sometime today, myself and my brother Hakeem, who's part of the objective opinion. We're in the media. He's in the media, and myself. We're gonna do a live an interview with the Imam, so you can hear from him directly. The reason for that is that we can't trust the media in no way, shape, or form, because the media, no matter how much we give in terms of facts and information, they're going to spin it the way they want to spin it. And if you haven't been aware, it's been there have been a lot of spin on this case in reference to the Imam. And the irony is they're not focusing exclusively on the incident and the circumstances surrounding his son. They're more or less castigating and slandering the Imam, and they're using this unfortunate circumstances, to castigate him, to dehumanize him, to demean him, and then they're bringing up again. They're not bringing up false event. I mean, they're not bringing up accurate events. They're bringing up false narratives about the Imam, and they're using it. And I always say, they're talking about Imam Siraj and his radicalism and his extremism and then the false narrative that they're bringing is to talk again trying to link the Imam Siraj, with the World Trade Center bomb, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out if all of these things are true. I will show you what he claims the media is doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's eerie to me to hear this man who is claiming that the media is biased. He sounds an awful lot like Trump when he says you can't trust the media at all whatsoever. I mean, he's talking about all of it. Like, don't listen to anybody but us. Am I hearing that right? Because he's
that's what I
basically
heard.
saying, don't believe any media source. I started out my show with the Canadian source, and I'm going to walk through a whole bunch of other articles and clips that come from a variety of other sources. I guess one of them is the Chicago Sun-Times, and I'll show you more. I guess you'll have to decide if you think all of those media sources should not be believed in this case that happened out in the desert.
Yeah.
And this really, I think, was the perfect storm. Hence the reason why I called my show Desert Storm.
Oh, yeah.
I think this was a perfect storm of circumstances in which you see Linda Sarsour in Michigan behind El Said, and then she's out there asking for donations for El Said from this imam, and then boom, raid from the FBI, and kids are found. One of them is dead. The FBI had been surveilling that area for months. I have a lot of questions about why they didn't raid sooner.
Yeah.
Maybe they were trying to gather enough information to do so. Who knows? I guess until the FBI tells us, we won't know.
Exactly.
But they had been surveilling for months in advance. So they knew that they were there, and the FBI, it wasn't just like the local cops or something. The family who are the landowners of the property where Ibn Wahaj was squatting it belonged to some other people. It wasn't land that they were allowed to be on.
Wow.
So the landowners reported it to the authorities, and the authorities basically didn't do anything. They also found the missing child poster that was being circulated on social media and called the missing hotline and said, "We've seen where the kid is. He's on our property over here, but trying to tell somebody to come and get him."
Wow.
And in addition to that, they claim that the police did nothing, forcing them to have to file an eviction notice to have these people removed. They even went to court. They took them to court so that they could legally evict them. All of this took this family months and months and months because the authorities of all the different types that I've mentioned to you that were involved didn't act until just the other day.
Wow.
When they moved in and raided the place. So there's a lot of unanswered questions about how this could have happened and taken so long.
That's really strange to have non-action from local.
The child went missing in January.
In January. That's really weird. And like you said, we were waiting for answers on that. That's maybe why they're saying, "Don't listen to the press. We're gonna spin it our way," because there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Why the authorities wouldn't move in. I don't know how long it takes the FBI to release information. Sometimes it takes them a long time. Sometimes they never release it. So some of these questions might not be answered. But that is really strange to me. It would be horrible if that was happening in my family's life, or in place, and you're reporting things and reporting this kidnapped boy, missing boy, months, and the boy's dead now too.
Yeah.
And they could have prevented a death there. So that stuff is pretty strange to me.
Yeah, well, here's something even more strange. I want you to show them the son's Facebook page. It's Ibn Wahaj. It's IBN. That's right, that one. This is Siraj Ibn Wahaj's Facebook page. And if you scroll down there a little bit, you will see that he is friends with Imam Siraj Wahaj, That's his daddy.
Okay.
Okay. And it says Masjid at Taqwa. That's the masjid where he is the imam.
Okay.
Okay. You following along?
Yep.
Okay. Subhana Wahaj right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the daughters that was found at the compound.
She was found at the compound.
That was missing.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So remember, all of this is in New York. Remember, Glitterati, we're all from New York.
Yeah.
Anyway, here is that press conference that they held. The imam and his security guy. Can I pause for a minute and ask you to put up the security guy's pictures that I had you download?
Okay.
Real quick. I want to tell you a little bit about
which one do I grab?
This guy. All of those that he's in costume. That one, the one next to it, the one below it.
Right. I'll start doing those.
Okay. These are great. This is him doing ninjutsu. He also does ninjutsu, guys. The imam's what's it called? Security dude. This is him in a variety of these poses doing the ninjutsu. At first, I thought that was a made-up thing, that it did not exist, that it was all fake. But our intern Minami informed me it's a real thing. It's real. It's from Japan.
Wow.
Yeah. She knew all about it. Well, I mean, she'd heard about it, okay? She had heard of the thing. And I don't know why this stupid thing isn't working right now, because it hates me. It's like, I don't need you. Okay, so one of the one who spoke of searching for alternatives, this is taken from a clip in an article. Ali Abdul Karim, that's this guy here that you're watching on the screen. The guy that was just talking on those videos about how he was going to be having the imam speak for himself at a press conference on what happened. That's this guy, Ali Abdul Karim. He's the head of security at the Taqwa Mosque in Brooklyn. Karim is a martial arts expert who began training in Shuriken Karate almost 50 years ago under the ninjutsu pioneer Ron Duncan.
Oh,
doesn't he
Ron.
sound? Ron, you know, that famous ninjutsu dude.
Yeah, Ron Duncan, yes.
Ron Duncan. And he is also the head of his own security firm, and he conducts security trainings for the police and the military and for other stuff, which the NYPD don't like so much and were sued for profiling them over, actually. They were the NYPD, who has been accused, and rightly so, of profiling people, especially people of color and Muslims in particular. They've had a rough deal. This was one of the masjids. This was one of the people they were looking at among other people. And I'm going to show you why in a moment. So that was my favorite one. It looks like a Cirque du Soleil pose.
Yeah.
You can't, for the people on the radio that can't see these are like, he's wearing like ninja clothes, and he's doing some weird pose that looks like he's going to go into the banana splits, and then he's holding two balls or something, medicine balls or something in his hands, like those giant, he looks like big bowling balls, and they look about bowling ball size, and he's balancing them on his hands. But the fan one is a close second favorite, I think. The fan one, oh, I don't know what that is. That's just kind of some kind of stick. That one, that one's special. What's he like? Fling the fan at you, or like, you know, he cools you off really fast.
He freezes you.
Ninjutsu is a real thing, guys. Had you ever heard of it?
No, I have not.
Okay. Well, it is. It's supposed to be used for espionage.
Oh,
Interestingly enough, it's sometimes it's used in tactics of unconventional warfare.
I see.
And guerrilla warfare and espionage.
Wow.
That is the main foundation of ninjutsu, just so y'all know. Okay, moving right along to the press release.
Yes.
Just so you know who the people are. This is Imam Siraj Wahaj and Ali
Making a statement to the press.
making a statement to the press, yes.
Alhamdulillah, assalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Brothers and sisters, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We're here with Imam Siraj, and we want to basically hear from the Imam in respect to this issue that is dealing with his family. And as you know, things are being said in the news, and you're getting information from all different sources. But we want you to hear from what we consider the authentic source, the straight source. So I want to convey to you, as far as the Imam is concerned, is to hear from him. Let him allow you to understand exactly what's going on. We may not get deep into the case itself, but at least the community wants to hear from him. So Imam, I want you to express about this case to the extent that you seem necessary, but the people need to hear from you.
Assalamu alaikum, Ali. I want to first praise Allah the Almighty, and we realize, Ali, that nothing happens without the permission of Allah. And this is the thing that keeps us going as Muslims. How horrible situation may be, it may appear, but we know in the end that Allah is always in control of everything. And we try to find Allah in everything that we do. Last year we had learned that my grandson Abdul Ghani had been taken by my son Ibn from his wife from Morocco, Sister Hakima, and we were surprised, and we tried to reach out to try to find my son and to tell him to take his son back to the mother, and whatever issues they have, they can work it out. And then we didn't hear from them. Found out that a number of my family members, they were traveling together, and that is Ibn and his wife Miriam, and my daughter Sapana and her husband Lukman, sister Huja, my daughter, and Sapana, my daughter, and all their grandchildren. They were together somewhere. So we went to the police and let them know that they were missing, and we tried to give them all the information that we can to help them to locate my family. Then we put on social media to let everybody know that, listen, they're missing. If anybody have any information, please contact the authorities. We gave them the number, and that's what it's been in the last in a few months. And then we heard that there was some sighting of them in New Mexico, and one of my daughters, Sapana, had reached out to someone, a friend of ours in Atlanta, and said that they were starving. Could we send some food? And he gave me the information. We sent the food and gave the information for the pickup for the authorities, and that's what happened. They wound up going into New Mexico, this place that they were staying, and arrested my son, Lukman, and the three sisters, and took in custody all of the grandchildren. So you can imagine how we feel right now. We learned of the tragic death, it seems to be, of our grandson Abdul Ghani, and so we're trying to make sure that in fact some remains that they found on the property in New Mexico was in fact him. So they're trying to make that identification and find out the cause of death. So this is a big test for me, my family, for the Muslims, for all of us, and we ask Allah to give us guidance. I want to find out, A, what happened to my grandson. B, I want to find out what happened, what made my children act in such a dramatic way. We're close. All the family is close. Right. They cut off relationships with everyone, with their mother, their father, their brothers and sisters, their friends, basically. And so we want to find out what happened. We want to make sure that the children are safely and in our hands. So we'll be going down to New Mexico, inshallah, to try to get them back and hope that there'll be no problems with that. And then try to sort it all out. And Ali, the thing about us as Muslims is that, as you know, in Harvard Law School, in the entrance of the faculty library is a verse from the Quran. O you who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses for Allah, even against yourself or your parents or your near relatives. So for us, we just want the truth. It may be my son, they may be my daughters. We want the truth, and then we want to respond appropriately to that truth.
Right. Now, in the case of, like, there's certain media outlets, particularly like Fox News, that's really sensationalized the issue as if your families and so forth, even and so forth, and your family are involved in some extremist groups. No substantiation, but they're putting it out there, and then they're trying to connect you in respect to your background, or the negative narratives that they surround you with in respect to you being an unindicted co-conspirator, and then making these. What is your feeling about that?
I think a couple of things. You see, everybody have to realize that Allah is watching us. Allah, God, the Lord of the worlds, He's watching everybody, and everybody's on trial. Not just my family, but even the media is on trial. Number two, Muslims around the world are watching this. They know Imam Siraj, and they see what you're doing, right? Now, you see, there are people running around talking about fake media, fake news, right? Here's a case of there is fake news.
Absolutely.
Against me, and it's not against, as we spoke before, Ali, it's not just against me.
Right.
It's against any Muslim group, any Muslim leader. So today is Imam Siraj,
Right.
and so just Imam Siraj, right? And then you find out that it's Ikna, it's Isna, it's Mass, it's Care. It's this leader, it's that leader. That's what they do.
Right.
So their true agenda is coming out. They hate Islam, they hate Muslims, and here's a way to bring it out. So they think, we got Imam Siraj now. Really, honestly, and not only are the Muslims watching, people around the world are watching.
Yeah,
Non-Muslims are watching. I went to London. It's funny, when I went to London, I went to immigration. The first thing the immigration officer saw when I was from America, he said, when Trump gonna build that wall? And they make fun of him. They mock him everywhere we go.
Exactly.
So the people are paying attention.
Right.
And so, listen, really, honestly, I don't like when it happens. I don't like when people, make me look like I'm some pariah or some bad guy, some evil guy. And we know that that's not me.
Right.
But they do that. And there's a price to pay for everything with Allah the Almighty, because He wants us to be just. And this is why Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States of America, said, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, and His justice will not sleep forever. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with some people that are unjust. Then there's some people in the media very fair, fair-minded. They're going to print the story, and give us the facts. That you make a determination. You make a judgment about the person's character, but they're just going to give you the facts.
Right. And the issue, for the sake of clarity for the audience, have you ever been charged with linking yourself or citing the fact that you were involved in the World Trade Center bombing?
Let me tell you something interesting. And people have to ask Mary Jo White. Right? She was
the head DA for the Southern District in Manhattan.
Right, and they were examining the case, the first World Trade Center. And she said during the one hearing, she said, well, it's not just Umar Abdurrahman, there's others. So the defense said, you keep saying that, who are they? Or I'll get you a list. So she comes out with a list, I think 175, 177, 172, okay. Right. She said the following unindicted people may be alleged as co-conspirators. What does that mean? It means absolutely nothing.
Right.
So what's happening, so media pick it up. So they don't say what she said. They don't say that there's 172. Imam Siraj was unindicted co-conspirator, but now they don't want to do that. They said he's implicated in the World Trade Center. It's not true. It's a lie.
Right.
I've never been investigated. I've never been questioned by the FBI or anyone like that. So they know exactly what they're doing. The question is, why are you doing it?
Exactly.
You see, what's his name? The fourth president of the United States of America, James Madison.
Yes.
He said, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. And if angels govern men, neither internal nor external controls will be necessary. But the fact is, we are human beings. So the President of the United States of America is a human being, not an angel, right? Governors are not angels. The Congress are not angels. The FBI are not angels. The CIA, the media are not angels.
Right.
So people have to say, you know what? Let me leave my bias out of it. Let's just deal with the case. For us as Muslims, it's clear that there's some people in the media who hate Islam and hate Muslims, and they let it be known.
And
Them to be patient, especially for the mother of Abdul Ghani. Hakima is her name. She's so sweet, so wonderful. Pray for her, pray for the family, and let us continue to represent Islam the way Islam is supposed to be represented.
Alhamdulillah. Among many that we want to bring to you, the thing is that this is the source that you want to hear from. You want to hear directly from the source that's directly connected, not only connected, to the case itself, but in terms of giving you the exact account of what is going on. And so we asked the community, the Muslim community, the non-Muslim community, to wait for the facts to come out, and we will present the facts. In Islam, and qawlan sadidan, to speak straight to the point, and this is what you get from here. The Imam is here to set the record straight. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You too, my brother. Yeah.
Okay, so we played the whole thing,
Yeah.
to be fair, because I didn't want, the imam or his family to feel as if, we edited part of their statement to the press. And I honestly have to say, I just don't get why they have such a huge problem with the media, period, reporting on this at all. Like, it's not as if we don't know for sure that there is a dead child out there.
Yeah.
We know that for sure. We know that there was a bunch of spent bullet casings all over the place. I mean, it's on these people's property. They went on the property, their own property, and they went through the stuff that was left behind on their property. And they left more guns and bullets there, even after the FBI and all the authorities said they had taken all of the stuff that they needed to take into evidence and left. The property owners found more weapons.
Yeah. And they're saying that we're going to provide the facts.
Right.
And that's good. I mean, they should have a really good media strategy, and they should get information out. It's like, well, where are the facts coming from? And these facts should be laid out for everybody to see,
Right,
and interpreted, and if they have more information that can be supplied around those facts with information that no one else has, we should definitely watch what they're doing, what they're producing, because any information, more information would be very beneficial. But
I have a problem with the family investigating itself, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the family members are the people that are being charged here. His
That's true.
sons. So for him to be impartial is not possible. So how can
good
he
point.
investigate and be the source of all of the information as well?
True.
Like that's,
Yeah. I totally get what you're saying there. So it's like, but there was no facts or nothing laid out in what they said in their press statement. I mean, it was like, except that the Imam doesn't want to, he said be associated with the World Trade Center bombings, that he was a suspect but never interviewed. That was helpful information, but that was the only piece I think that was even addressing any of this, and nothing really addressed anything. Just a lot of talk and keep tuned.
I have an opinion about this.
Yeah.
And it has to do with our show tonight. I think that who the Imam is connected to, as you heard Linda Sarsour said, this guy was her mentor. And all of these connections of what they're connected to, and what you're seeing here is extremism in its, domestic terrorist form, possible training of children for a school shooting situation, a terrorist attack. That's pretty big. And let me just say that the NYPD has looked at this mosque and specifically at these kinds of trainings done by Ali. And I'm sure this is the kind of things that his sons also were training in, or trained in, or training these kids in. I want to show you the daughter of this guy, Ali. here she is training in the mosque, I guess, or I don't know where they do it. Nope, that's not
right
it.
here we go.
Daughter.
There we go.
Yeah, this is him from his page, Ali Abdul Karim Judan, and it says, "My Kunoiki sisters, female shadow warriors, Huron and Kamar, sharpening their skills."
Yep.
Okay, maybe they're not. That's not his daughter, but the next one is. I thought she was though. Here's. Oh yeah, Hujra Wahaj. Wasn't she in that other picture? Go back. Is it Hujra? Yeah, Hujra.
Yep. There it
And
is.
Kamar.
Mhm.
Okay, so Hujra is in this picture. Here's what his daughter does. She's an executive producer of the Hujra Wahaj show, and she is an author, life coach, and professional motivational speaker.
Atlanta, Georgia.
But she's a Wahaj too. Does that mean that she's married to one of the Imam's sons, and that therefore Ali and the Imam are actually related to each other by marriage because their kids are married or something? I don't know. Maybe she is. Maybe that's a very common last name. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Somebody needs to tell me about that. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole today, though.
All right.
Here's an article from the Chicago Sun-Times that I told you I would be showing you on my show, where they're talking about all of the questions that were raised by the timing of the search at this compound and the reasons for that. The property owners that I told you that had this, what does it call it? Something.
A compound.
A compound?
Yeah, they show a remote outpost.
It looks like something that they build, like those tents that they built to put stuff in at camp. Doesn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely makeshift and
It's
plastic there and
it's
canvases and
then there's a bunch of tires. It looks like they were trying to make a earth ship or
yeah,
something.
surrounded with tires.
Yeah. And the property owner named Jason Badger said he found all this stuff on his property, and the place was littered with ammunition, diesel cans, used diapers, garbage. And I mean, ooh, that was a big one. I felt that one all the way over here. We're having a storm where we are. And there's like, boom. I hear these like.
Everything's shaking.
Everything is shaking, literally shaking. Yeah. The earth is shaking. It's a quaking. So he was interviewed, and he learned through an online search that Wahaj was wanted in the disappearance of his son, Abdul Ghani. This is the little boy that was found missing. And that it was reported to law enforcement authorities in New Mexico and Georgia, and eventually to the FBI. So all of these different authorities were involved. Authorities did not search that compound for the severely disabled little boy until last week in a raid that resulted in the arrest of Wahaj and 4 other adults on child neglect charges. A second search uncovered the child's body. It has not yet been positively identified. I don't know if by the time of this report it has now been positively identified by a state medical examiner. But I think Wahaj's father and also I think Wahaj's father said this week that the bodies was of his grandson. So
okay.
Maybe he's assuming that. I don't know if they know for certain 100%. I just want you to know that's what the article says. Badger, the landowner, and his wife, which are in videos, one of which I'll show you a still of in a minute, of what they found underneath this compound.
Okay, yeah.
He said if all these law enforcement authorities knew about this compound and this kid missing that I told them about, and that kid died in that time frame when they knew, somebody has to be held accountable. And so the Taos County Sheriff's Department spokesperson tried to downplay the criticism of the landowner, basically saying the authorities let this kid die.
Yeah.
And Sheriff Jerry Hagrafa, I hope I pronounced that correctly, did everything he could possibly under the law according to the restrictions he was required to follow. He was quoted as saying, "Mr. Badger doesn't have to adhere to the same restrictions he's talking about Mr. Badger. He wants to have his 15 minutes of fame, and that's fine. The sheriff said the FBI put the compound under surveillance in the recent months, so right up until the death, taking photographs, etc. But he could not, the sheriff could not get a warrant to enter because they did not know the data collected, the pictures did not show whether the boy or his father were actually in there.
Okay.
So, there's other interesting little pieces of this. That changes when a note was forwarded to Georgia authorities saying children inside the compound were starving. So somehow that, maybe the kids hadn't been out, but according to the landowners, they said that they saw the kid as early as 3 months ago.
Wow.
So the missing boy's grandfather, who leads this well-known mosque, Taqwa, sent the note to the Georgia authorities. He's the one that contacted the police. 5 adults, including the imam's 2 children and second adult daughter, have been charged with child abuse stemming from the neglect of the 11 children. Remember, there's a death. There is also possibly manslaughter and or murder charges.
Wow.
Homicide charges pending for these people. Well, somebody killed that kid.
I know, yeah.
The kid is dead.
Yeah, how did this kid die?
And they said that people were starving. So Wahaj was eventually found. By the way, the suspects are all in the New Mexico jail. They're being held without bail right now. One of them, Lucas Morton, who's also facing charges for harboring a felon, Wahaj, the son of the imam, whose son is the kid that's dead.
Okay.
He wouldn't give him up when the raid occurred. He's accused of refusing to tell the authorities where Siraj Wahaj was during the raid.
Wow.
So he's facing additional charges. What on earth? I am thinking, can you just imagine under what circumstances there's a raid where you know there's already a dead kid on the premises and others of them starving, and you don't give up this dude? Under what circumstances would you refuse to tell the people already raiding the compound, they're there, you're not going to get rid of them now, that you would refuse to tell them where this guy was hiding?
I have no idea what would motivate a person to do that. You know, what's behind that? You know,
There's a gun in your face.
I
Tell
know,
us where he is.
And it's like there's information that we don't know why that person would resist that.
That's crazy, though, right?
It is very, very.
The cops are already there. It's not like they're gonna find him.
Yeah.
Was he afraid for his life? Was he scared of Siraj? I don't know. I wonder things like that in my head. Why would he not tell him where? That don't make sense to me. So that was one of the things that kind of was like, what? Wahaj was, of course, eventually found with multiple firearms he had on him. Yeah. Multiple. These included an assault rifle. And, of course, as you know, Abdul Ghani, the little 3-year-old boy that was abducted back from his mother in December in Janesboro near Atlanta, authorities said, was described as having health problems that required constant attention because of lack of oxygen and blood flow. Wow. And his blood flow from the time of birth. So, I mean, taking this kid out to this compound, the sick baby out to the compound in the first place is, I don't know. I feel it's kind of unconscionable. It's an oxygen thing. Yeah. You know, like, how do you do that to this little baby? And then, of course, there's the firing range and whatever kind of weird trainings the authorities are claiming in the charges against these people, that they were training the children to do school shooting, a terrorist attack, basically. And the imam has given no information, and you just heard him, his entire press conference about his son's behavior, why his son would do anything like this. How can he not know about his son's affinity for the guns or how he treated the kids or anything? Like, he has no way of saying this is completely out of character for him or anything. Like, nothing. I don't know. It kind of feels like he's covering up for his kid.
I agree.
To me, what do you think?
I agree, because it is strange. It's strange to take that attitude and not supply any details. Just that one article you've read, and there's many more than that one article, have supplied a lot of the details that he could be responding to, but he's choosing not to. And maybe if he just said, "I'm just not going to speak about any of these matters until my son has a lawyer," and not going to make public statements and do that sort of press conference, and say you'll hear from me once we have all the facts in and we have good legal counsel, I'd understand that. But to go on and say we're going to supply the facts, and then not even hint at anything about what's happened, not even laying the groundwork of here's what's been told so far, and I have a problem with the way it's being told. Here's some things that are incorrect. None of that information was there. So yeah, you would think that person would be devastated that his son's involved in this thing, his grandson is dead, that there's all these children and these weapons, and there's this evidence of stuff has been shown that something violent is going on. There's something being planned there, and then not say anything. It is very strange, I think.
Well, and if you will show us that picture of the tunnels that I wanted you to.
Okay.
There's actually tunnels underneath that compound that I don't understand how on earth they did all of this. Like, this is elaborate stuff. This was found underneath, and this is from a video that the property owner and his wife took on their own property from an article that was not the Chicago Sun-Times. Which one was it, honey? Do you remember?
Let's see. The Global News.
Global News. That's the one from Canada, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I don't know. My computer is trying to kill me right now.
Oh, no.
Me. I don't know why.
Don't let it do that. We need you.
Mean to me. I can't scroll up or down on my document or make my computer do anything. So you have to scroll for me on yours.
I see how big that thing is on there. Let's see.
So this is the tunnel. Can you see how big those are? You can fit it looks like you can fit a human in there pretty easily. And these tunnels went in and out of the compound all the way underneath the ground. So presumably speaking, you could go in and out of this place without ever being seen from the air, from above, from a drone or a plane or a helicopter. You would not be able to see anything of the people going in and out of this place. And perhaps that was one of the reasons why they couldn't.
Yeah.
With their surveillance.
And if you look at the aerial view there.
Apparatuses.
Yeah.
Apparati.
It's like, yeah, this is total brush and weeds out there, very remote area. Interesting. Where those tunnels went, how far they went, I don't know any of that information yet.
No, I don't either. And I don't know if we're going to get it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that's something that we get to find out anytime soon. But that's just really a strange thing. I don't think that I've ever heard of that before. I know that, that was something that people did talk about happened in, for example, in Afghanistan. They would have, people were hiding underground. And of course, Americans use drone strikes over there. So it would stand to reason that would be a thing. Just so you know, my whole thing just shut down and went boop. Not gonna talk to you anymore. So go back to the document.
We can do this video from NBC.
Okay, let's show them the NBC video while I get this back
your
up.
machine comes back. One moment, please.
more reporting on what happened out in the desert.
This is the outer perimeter of that compound where those kids were being held. And even though investigators say they have seized all the evidence they need, there are still telltale signs of weapon instructions. I want to show you over here. These right here are training rounds for shooters that are learning how to shoot right at the beginning. This is a bag full of live ammunition. Here's a shotgun shell, a SIM card. There's even a drone. Wow.
Inside this isolated compound, a chilling mix of children's toys and lethal weaponry.
223, this is for an assault rifle.
The property littered with trash, gas masks, and Qurans.
The only section that was kept clear was this makeshift shooting range where authorities think that children were given advanced weapons training to prepare for a school shooting.
According to court documents, one boy had been trained in the use of an assault rifle to kill as many people as possible. 5 adults were arrested and charged with child abuse. Investigators alleging the suspects are Muslim extremists, all 5 related to a controversial Muslim faith leader in Brooklyn who claims he's had no recent contact with his adult children.
Our family every day is saying, this is so bizarre, it's weird, it's like, what's going on?
The local sheriff confirming the FBI was watching the compound.
They didn't find that
Property
child.
owner Jason Badger says for months he begged local investigators to do something about the family squatting on his land, worried about the little boy named Abdul that he recognized from a missing child's poster.
I called the Missing and Exploited Children's Hotline. I called the New Mexico State Troopers. I called the Taos County Sheriffs and notified them that they are on our property.
Now he wishes investigators would have moved in sooner.
He had said that they didn't want a police officer to go up here and do that kind of stuff because they didn't want to risk a Waco situation.
Tonight, the sheriff has denied our interview requests, and the FBI is not commenting.
Now, the property owner says he was particularly concerned because after investigators left, after they said that they had seized everything they needed, he came over to this truck, he opened up the back, and he saw a tactical shotgun within plain sight, as well as a Glock. He also found a passport of one of the suspects with a visa from Saudi Arabia. Now, all those suspects are going to be back in court on Monday.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out.
So, a passport for Saudi Arabia. I mean, this could have included taking these kids out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? They had their passports at the ready.
Yeah.
And the authorities left behind 2 more guns and a whole bunch of...
And that was after they were there.
That was a hasty exit by the authorities,
Yeah.
right? It's like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wanted to address what the imam said about how he was an unindicted co-conspirator.
Yeah.
So that people can see what they're talking about. They try to, I guess, distance themselves from this and say that this is not really that big of a deal. But here's what it is. I'll show you right now. This is the letter that was sent along with the list of the names of all of the people who were unindicted co-conspirators. And as you can see, it is from... Mary Jo White. Can you scroll down a little bit further so we can get the signature block there, honey? What does it say there? United States Attorney.
Yes.
Okay, so this is in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is sent over regarding United States versus Omar Ahmed Ali Abdel Rahman. And by the way, this guy was given a life sentence for terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center.
Wow.
For life. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it says in this letter that the United States Attorney is sending over, okay, saying, enclosed is a list of unindicted persons who may be alleged as co-conspirators. The list is not exhaustive, as is always the case, and the government's investigation is continuing. The government further directs your attention to the prior discovery and the transcripts of the Salama case. The list is as complete as I could make it in good faith. If we discover missing names, they will be added. And here's the last page of this, and you can see the second name there is Siraj Wahaj.
Yes.
You can also see right after that is the Sudanese mission to the United Nations. So organizations as well as people can be on one of these lists.
Mm-hmm.
Next, I want to show you from the NYPD notes. This is the law department of the city of New York. Okay, sending a letter to Judge Azraq, Joan Azraq. And she's the Honorable Joan Azraq, United States Magistrate Judge, United States District Court in the Eastern District of North Dakota in Brooklyn. And to the judge regarding the Raza et al. Versus the City of New York, which is this lawsuit against the New York Police Department for profiling people. It says in the letter that was sent, I'm a senior counsel to the Office of Michael Cardozo, Corporate Counsel of the City of New York, submitting a letter on behalf of defendants in anticipation of initial conference scheduled before the judge on September 12th. And it says the plaintiffs, consisting of 3 individuals and 3 organizations, alleged that they've been surveilled by the NYPD without a legitimate law enforcement purpose. They allege that the NYPD engaged in religious profiling in violation of their rights under the First Amendment, the Free Exercise of Religion and Establishment Clause in the 14th Amendment, Equal Protection. Plaintiffs further alleged that since 2002, the NYPD has engaged in an unlawful policy and practice of religious profiling and surveillance of New York Muslims. Defendants filed their answer. But, so this is what the allegations were, okay? I'm giving you the other side here. The police are saying this is what they allege. And of course you heard the imam and his security dude, Ali, saying, yeah, this is what the cops do. That's why they have this long list of names. Yeah. And he's just on a list because they profile people. They did settle to these lawsuits. And here is the notes that they made about the masjid at Taqwa. And this I found very interesting. This is from the same document. I'm not going to read all the rest of it to you because it pertains to different people. And it talks about here regarding plaintiff masjid at Taqwa. This Muslim mosque was one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit, which was settled with the New York Police Department. But here, this is what the NYPD had to say. The NYPD's investigation of certain individuals accused with plaintiffs' masjid at Taqwa was based upon information about their lengthy history of suspected criminal activity. Some of it terroristic in nature. This information includes, but isn't limited to, illegal weapons trafficking by members of the mosque's security team and the mosque caretaker, both within the mosque and at the store adjacent. 2, illegal weapons trafficking by certain attendees of the mosque, allegations that the mosque ran a gun club, and allegations that the assistant imam had earmarked portions of over $200,000 raised in the mosque to a number of U.S. government's designated terrorist organizations. Certain individuals associated with Masjid at Taqwa have historical ties to terrorism. The mosque's imam, Siraj Wahaj, was named by the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York as an unindicted co-conspirator in a plot to bomb a number of New York City landmarks in the mid-1990s called the Landmark Plot. Omar Abdel Rahman, known as the Blind Sheik, who is now serving a life sentence in federal prison for his role in the Landmark Plot, lectured at the mosque at Taqwa. Wahaj testified as a character witness for Abdel Rahman during Abdel Rahman's terrorism trial. And Wahaj also testified as a character witness for Clement Hampton L., a Masjid at Taqwa attendee who was convicted as one of the Blind Sheik's co-conspirators in the Landmark plots.
Wow.
Members of the mosque's security team have instructed individuals on how to disarm police officers and have led martial arts classes involving individuals convicted on terrorism charges. at their trainings. People convicted of terrorism.
Jeez.
Just to be clear.
Yes, yes.
Since at least 2003, Masjid al-Taqwa members have participated in and sponsored paintball exercises and survival trainings outside of New York City, activities which have been carried out for training purposes by violent extremists in multiple terrorism cases in the United States and abroad, such as the Virginia Jihad case, the Fort Dix plot, the 7/7 attacks in London, and the UK fertilizer bomb plot, Operation Awakening. On one of these outings, the leader of Masjid at-Taqwa's security team instructed the members. That was the guy we just saw in the red beard, doing all of those
the fancy moves.
The ninjutsu dude. Yes, that guy that I just showed you. Instructed members of his paintball team to, quote, form up jihad assassins, and called them his, quote, jihad warriors. Farouk Ahmed, who is currently incarcerated after pleading guilty to terrorism charges in connections with the plot to bomb the Washington, D.C. metro, promoted and participated in at least one of these trips to do these trainings outside of New York with convicted terrorism people training them.
Yeah, wow.
So when they say that, when the imam says that people are trying to sensationalize what this is from the lawsuit against the NYPD, which they settled. And this is what the allegations against the Masjid at-Taqwa were at the time. And they're talking about convicted felons, people that have already been convicted of terrorism, etc., etc., etc.
Wow.
So to be fair, I think there's ample reason for people to look at the past and go, how could this possibly be related? Well, I have a lot of questions now that I found out that they have been allegedly selling guns or trafficking weapons because there seem to be a lot of weapons found at this compound. I mean, what is that? Doesn't that send red flags in the air for you all over the place, dude?
It does for me. Of course it does. You know, especially in that news video where they're walking around, they're finding all the weapons being all over the place and ammunition and all those things. And, you know, since he has this past and his organization has this past that shows similarities, I don't know why those guys are talking in public in the first place. They should be contacting a lawyer and keeping their mouths shut, you know, really. But it's like they're wanting to send out information on this.
Yeah.
And it's like it's really hard to come up with a narrative that counters what's actually been found. I mean, I don't know how they can sit back and tell us that we have to wait for them to give us the facts. I'm going to be very interested. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to see what sort of facts they lay out there.
Let me show. Go ahead.
That's good. It's just that
I am too. I wanted to show you what they said. The Atlantic.
Okay.
You have that one?
Yep, I do. One moment.
One moment, please. There it is. This is a post, a tweet actually, by at John Paul Pagano about Linda Sarsour. That, and again, this imam is her personal mentor. You just heard her talking about that at that annual conference, right?
Yep.
And I need to get back to her and her connection to the Women's March and her connection to the Poor People's Campaign and her connection to the Bernie campaign and her connection to Standing Rock, because it's all there.
Wow.
And I'm going to explain it to y'all. I hope that you can stay awake for this. It's a lot of very important information, and you need to know about it. Okay? So, in this post, in this tweet, John Paul Pagano tweets a picture of Linda Sarsour with Tamika Mallory next to her. That's her other co-chair of the Women's March organization. They both co-founded it, and 2 other women I'm not familiar with. And it's linked to an article in The Atlantic, published in The Atlantic, titled, if you'll scroll down, it says, "The Women's March has a Farrakhan problem. The group refuses to be accountable for high-level allegiance with an open anti-Semite." That was published at theatlantic.com. Oh. And what he said with his post is, why can't Tamika Mallory quit Farrakhan? Why is the left inert to anti-Semitism? Why did people on the left, why did Democrats not mind? Yeah. Why don't people over on the left mind that anti-Semitism is happening? Mm-hmm. And he talks about it in the article. You can go check that out on your own if you'd like. But I wanted to remind you all of that because as I showed you on my last show where I was talking about Chase and Tara and when they made their trip and there was all the BDS movement stuff on the walls and all that. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, at that time, they went there with the justice delegation, and I'm going to show you some of the stuff that they were doing out there. But I also wanted to show you a little bit more about, and I showed you Mallory with a picture of Louis Farrakhan on his birthday. Mm-hmm. Yep. Too. So you can go check all of that stuff out and catch up to where we are so you can understand what's happening in today's show. But I also talked about the connections between Wes and the Turks and their pro-Erdogan propaganda. Yep, exactly. Well, Saleh Sarsour was also pro-Erdogan. I showed you guys that on another show. So is Linda. Here's a tweet where she says, whether you like him or not, Erdogan is the democratically elected president of Turkey, the largest democracy in the Middle East. And some dude at Peter something Jacques replies to her saying, one of defining characteristics of democracy is freedom of speech and press, which Erdogan has attacked and oppressed. Exactly. So, not really a democracy, Linda. Mm-hmm. Next, it's true, he's a dictator. And here she does another little good pro tweet there where she says, yes, of course there are grievances, but Erdogan is the democratically elected president of Turkey, so shut up. Yeah, really. You can't strip the people of their voice. The people have spoken. If you affect their election, you can. Fix the election, Linda. You can. People manipulating elections. And Boyd says what? He says Erdogan has manipulated elections, the media, and jailed his enemies. Is this the free and fair part? Yeah, I guess. He murders people he doesn't like that disagree with him. Exactly. What part of that is democratic? So she's trying to paint Erdogan in a really nice light, which I find interesting, given that Trump is his buddy now. Here's Sarsour posting about the missing children, and she's linking to an article here. If you will scroll down, you'll see she's linking to an Muslim ARC collaborative post in which they're talking about the statement of the media coverage of the Wahhaj family, which was posted on the 8th of August. Do you want to read that, honey? Yeah, I'll make it a little bit bigger. I have to bring it way down here and do that. You do? So many screenshots are tough to work with. But anyways. So she posted the press release from the ARC, from the basically from the people themselves, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. From the Muslim ARC. And what did they say? Thursday, August 8th, 2018. We're at the Muslim ARC and appalled by the sensationalist and Islamophobic news coverage of the arrest of Saj ibn Wahhaj, the son of our beloved Imam Saraj Wahhaj. I'm going to have trouble with all the names. The Imam is a respectful member of the American Muslim community. He is a devoted family man, a community builder. He has been central in the efforts to raise millions of dollars for the betterment of the lives of orphans, for direct services impacting Muslim and allied communities, in support of advocacy and justice work across the nation. With over 40 years of experience, the Imam has sparked minds, inspired souls with messages of hope, faith, and the power of redemption. Okay, stop. This is supposed to be a press release about the arrest of his kid and the child that was dead. And they're like, it's like reading like his bio.
Yeah, it's like,
promoting him.
It's all about him,
And being a great it's just so weird. I'm not going to have you read the rest of it because a lot of it sadly reads like that. But go down to the very bottom.
Okay.
Because, I mean, it sounds like an excuse the way he says, well, we shared social media posts about the missing kid and we started a GoFundMe for him. So, like, we've done what we're supposed to do. And then they give action steps for the public.
Mm-hmm.
If you're really not anti-Muslim and you love the imam and his family, this is what you should do. Watch responsible news coverage of the situation.
Yes. CNN.
And he says, review the MANA statement. So there's a MANA statement on the arrest of Siraj Wahhaj, which I will share with you in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And also go donate to the GoFundMe for Hakima, the mom of the little boy that died.
Yeah.
Because they need to make funeral arrangements and pay for her travel and all that. And they also have you watch Grief and Trauma, Coping in the American Muslim Community. This is a weird one. He says, for organizations that had benefited from the work of Imam Siraj, we encourage you to issue statements of support for his family at this time of his mourning. So they're saying they're being attacked in the media. Put out something that's positive in favor of him. Write letters to the editors of news outlets like New York Daily Post, CBS News, and others to express your concern about the sensationalist coverage. So they're having people that read this post attack the media for their coverage when I really don't think it's been unfair.
Mm-hmm.
Now go to the top. And I know that the media is frequently anti-Muslim.
Yeah.
But this is what Linda Sarsour said. Remember, this is her mentor, her dude, the guy that has like raised her up from the ground many times.
Influenced her,
made
her
blah,
what
blah, blah.
she is today.
She says, and this is her statement, her first time talking about this compound in the desert and these missing kids.
Mm-hmm.
She says, important read. There are children at the center of the story, and that's where the focus should be. This is a horrific and tragic situation, but folks have spun it as another opportunity to spew and frame this as an anti-black and Islamophobic light. Read the facts.
Okay.
Here's another post that she made the next day. And in it, she says, this is a horrific situation that left a child dead and other children neglected. No one wishes this on anyone. Hate groups and right-wing media have used this as an opportunity to spew anti-Muslim rhetoric and push conspiratorial rumors, further traumatizing the entire family. Imam Siraj Wahhaj, the grandfather and a prominent imam in the American Muslim community, this is not okay. These children and their welfare should be the center, and laying this child to rest as the investigation holds whomever was responsible accountable. Well, the only people that were there were his family members.
Yeah.
Who else would they possibly hold responsible?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Any other maybe other family members who knew and didn't do nothing about it, perhaps? I don't know who she's talking about.
Yeah.
I want you to show that manna thing. Could you get to the manna one? It was earlier and I skipped it. It was right next to Ibn Wahhaj's. It was just IBN right next to that one.
This one?
Yep. This is the Muslim Alliance in North America. They put out a statement out about the arrest, which Linda Sarsour recommended that we read. That's part of the things that she linked to. So it says, today's news has surfaced reporting the arrest in New Mexico of Siraj ibn Wahhaj, son of Imam Siraj Wahhaj, our beloved Imam. The same story cites the finding of several other adults and children reportedly living in squalid conditions. It's not reportedly living in squalid conditions. Yeah. There is video and photographic evidence of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like these are alternative facts, Duke. Am I
That's
crazy?
true. No, you're not crazy at all. And the structure's been described as a ramshackle
No,
bunker.
and then they put ramshackle bunker in quotes. It's real. It was ramshackle.
We showed you pictures, aerial
showed it
pictures.
to you.
It's not
real.
it's not a solid structure in the suburbs.
Yeah, it's squalid structure in what has been described.
Yeah.
It's what you see with your eye holes.
Mm-hmm.
And it says made from a partially buried house trailer. Last December, Georgia police authorities issued an alert for a missing child identified as 3-year-old Abdul Ghani Wahaj, grandson of Imam Siraj. The little boy was described as suffering from medical conditions from birth, requiring medication to prevent emergency treatment. In conversation with few officials of the Muslim Alliance in North America, why wouldn't they say the child needed oxygen?
Yeah, exactly.
Imam Siraj verified this and expressed his further concern for the physical, psychological, and spiritual well-being of some of his other family members, including his son Siraj ibn Wahaj, the boy's father, and also the kidnapper.
Mm-hmm.
So he expressed concern for all of them. How nice of him. I don't know.
Huh.
Law enforcement authorities stated at the time that no criminal charges were pending against the child's father. Well, that's important, I guess, for us to know.
Yeah.
How is that relevant now that he's dead?
Yeah, exactly.
Why is it important that as of the time they arrested him, everyone should know that when the authorities were in contact with the imam, they all knew they all didn't think that there were any charges pending, but he still had kidnapped the child.
Mm-hmm.
They were still looking for him. Maybe they weren't going to charge him criminally at that time, but I have a problem with the way this reads.
Yeah.
Their concern was the well-being of Abdul Ghani's health. Today, however, they stated that the child is still missing and his father has been charged with the abduction. We at MANA have no greater details at this time, considering a police force claim that several guns were found at the scene of the arrest of Ibn Wahaj and other man, Lucas Morton. We are grateful to Allah that no violence occurred. That's just so bizarre.
Yeah.
We heard the law enforcement people said there was lots of guns. Given that that's probably true, we're just glad no one got injured.
Yep, exactly.
Who knows how those guns got there?
Mm-hmm.
Are you glad that Ibn Wahaj didn't kill anyone? Well, except for this little boy. Because there was violence.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a death. And he says, and they go on, we credit the arresting officers for their professionalism in a sensitive operation, even as we continue to pray for Abdul Ghani and all the members of the Wahaj family. We encourage all people of goodwill to do the same. Okay. And I just really wanted to go over that carefully and thoroughly because I want to be fair, but also I really have a problem with how that was put together.
Yeah.
And it just makes me really uncomfortable, even more so with Linda Sarsour, especially given that her work going out and doing things continues. In fact, Salah Sarsour, the other guy that was jailed for funding Hamas with money from the furniture store that they have here in the United States. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
Well, here's a post of his from Facebook in which he is promoting a convention for the Palestinian Convention in 2018. And it says, this year we mark 70 years. This convention, there's a little video that goes along with it if you want to show it, features Linda Sarsour and is fun for the whole family.
Yep.
So come on out.
Yeah, here it is.
And many more. Educate and empower yourself. Activities for the entire family.
Yeah.
Fun for all. Celebrate Palestinian heritage and watch culture. And get unique handcrafted pieces, art. Pretty cool stuff. Unique, one of a kind. You can register now.
Register now.
For the event. And what it says right there is the 11th annual conference. American Muslims for Palestine. AMP. Remember the group AMP?
Yeah, that's right.
Do you remember what AMP is considered? Salah
terrorist.
Sarsour is the board guy. He is the president of the board of that organization, and it is considered to be associated with funding terrorist organizations, which Salah Sarsour has done.
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Funding Hamas. Yes, I remember.
Okay. Well, I just want you to pay attention to how
definitely.
many people are connecting Linda Sarsour to terrorist activities.
Yes.
Okay? Because I want to make sure I didn't just jump the shark here. How is it that Bernie's campaign is letting him get so close to these people and they're not checking anybody's background?
Exactly.
Same way that Wes apparently does. So is that what Winnie Wong's strategy is? Like decentralized, like the Occupy thing? So you can't be blamed for the stuff that y'all are working on together? Mm-hmm. Is that what this is? I don't know if that's going to fly in court if you're charged with crimes, especially against this country. But let's say for the sake of things that you get lucky and you keep getting away. I would guess people are watching you now.
I think so.
I think people are going to pay attention because there's a dead baby here.
Mm-hmm.
Here's her at Standing Rock. Did you know Linda Sarsour went to Standing Rock?
Yep.
Why, yes, many of these phonies started their career at Standing Rock.
Mm-hmm.
They went to Standing Rock to appear in a cameo as paid whatever.
Yep.
Many of them probably right from Hollywood. We're going to get you an exclusive right there. You'll get to start a GoFundMe. We'll use all our media platforms to promote you and your phony stuff that you do. And you're going to be in the Awake movie and the other phony documentaries that we get out of there.
Yeah.
We'll fly you around to some of the marches and conventions and stuff so that you can we can have some Standing Rock faces out there. And yeah, you can sell T-shirts and whatever. That's what these people have done. A lot of them.
Yep.
I want to show you a tweet from Diala. This is one of the people that is on that justice delegation I told you about, and I'm going to talk much more about them in more detail in the future. But I need to explain things to you one thing at a time.
Yep.
Because I don't want to confuse people.
Exactly.
But she is one of the people that was on that justice delegation that Linda Sarsour is associated with. The justice delegation met with an elder from the Afro-Palestinian community in Old Jerusalem, had heard about the struggles of his daily life when over-policed, monitored daily, and youth not given an opportunity to thrive. Now, and there's a group of the people with the justice delegation. I got an even better picture of them coming up.
Yeah.
Here's the event for their justice delegation event. What is it called?
Palestine is everywhere.
And who's going to be there?
Linda Sarsour.
Yes, she's associated with this justice delegation. When is that happening? It happened on June 1st.
Yeah, it happened on June 1st.
And who was it hosted by? The Center for Constitutional Rights.
Oh, wow.
This is important.
Mm-hmm.
The Center for Constitutional Rights is associated with the justice delegation. They're the ones hosting this event at which Linda Sarsour will appear. See the guy in the green hat? He's going to be important later. He shows up in some of these pictures. I think you might have noticed him in some of the pictures we already showed you of the people that were in the justice delegation.
All right.
Next, I am going to show you their event website. This is from their website. This is, of course, the delegation going back to report in New York City. They were witnesses, the Palestinian delegates of the 2018 Justice Delegation, reporting back to New York City. Can you read the names there, including Ashley Woodward, Henderson,
Chase Iron Eyes.
Yes. Diala Shamas.
Yep.
That's the woman who we just looked at her tweet, right?
That's right. And Jamil
Dakwar. Jamil Dakwar.
Justin Hansford. Kathleen Frank.
Yeah.
Marcia Smith.
Yeah.
Vince Warren.
Yep.
Misson, New York General. Natasha
Bannon.
Bannon, Raul Saxena,
Rahul Saxena.
And Tamika Mallory.
Mallory. And Tamika Mallory is the co-chair of the Women's March.
Oh, okay.
She's the Farrakhan
That's right.
fan. So here we have some Farrakhan fans.
Oh, boy.
Sarsour, who's associated with all of these different terrorist things. She's very adjacent to terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, now we have Chase Lion Eyes in there. I told you I'd bring you back to Standing Rock.
Yep, for sure.
Linda Sarsour was there. Maybe that's where they got together.
Mm-hmm, maybe.
Maybe that's how they always planned it. I don't know. I think I'm getting warm, though.
Yes.
Here's a BDS movement picture from Tarso Luis Ramos, at Tarso Luis Ramos of the Justice Delegation logo just above the Turtle Island, from Palestine to Turtle Island picture that's got, did you see the little red logo beneath that?
Yeah, from Turtle Island to Palestine.
No, the fist. The fist is the logo of the progressive.
Oh, I see.
The
right there. Yep.
Steve Grumbine group, isn't it?
Yeah, the Real Progressives, yeah.
The Real Progressive logo? Yeah, I bet that they're the ones that are associated with that thing. But there you have the Justice Delegation. And they put this on the wall in Palestine.
Yep.
And remember who took a picture under that? It was Chase Iron Eyes and Tara Houska.
Yep.
They took a picture right under this thing that this woman that was on that delegation also saw. Can you read what it says on there for me?
Yes. Heartened to see solidarity graffiti by the way Palestinians and indigenous struggles on the apartheid wall. Angered to see an anti-Semitic slogan despoiling the otherwise overwhelmingly principled expressions of love and justice. Stand strong against all forms of racism.
Anti-Semitism slogan despoiling. Yeah. So can you go back to it?
Yes.
So he says, I'm heartened to see solidarity graffiti between Palestinian and indigenous struggles on the apartheid wall, but I'm angered to see an anti-Semitic slogan despoiling the otherwise overwhelmingly principled expression of love and justice. I think she's pointing out that that's an anti-Semitic slogan.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Because BDSM, right?
Yes, exactly.
So here's a video from BDSM in which the co-founder talks about how no Palestinian would allow there to exist, an Israeli state to exist. They're not for a two-party solution, two-state solution. They're for a no Israeli state, period.
Wow, it's not coming up.
They cannot exist. Here's that video. Ooh. ¿Qué pasó, muchacho?
Something's not right.
Can you put it in again?
I'll try.
Let's see what happens. Maybe you have to put in another one. Yeah, like that. And find it. It was interesting. Maybe I can find it and play it from... Yeah.
What's the name of it? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's linked right there. It's actually Omar. Right
this
there.
one?
Yep.
Okay.
His name is Omar Barghouti.
There it is.
The 1967 military occupation, the most obvious to many people. The system of institutionalized racial discrimination, which conforms to the definition of apartheid, and the denial of refugee rights. These are the three basic injustices that Palestinians have suffered from, especially the issue of return of refugees to their homeland, because the refugees constitute 69% of the Palestinian peoples. Refugees in exile and internally displaced persons. Together, they are 69% of our people. So this makes the issue of refugees not a theoretical issue. That's the absolute most fundamental right, practical right for most Palestinians. A Jewish state in Palestine, in any shape or form, cannot but contravene the basic rights of the land's indigenous Palestinian population. and perpetuate a system of racial discrimination that ought to be opposed categorically. As we would oppose a Muslim state, or a Christian state, or any kind of exclusionary state, definitely, most definitely, we oppose a Jewish state in any part of Palestine. No Palestinian, rational Palestinian, not a sellout Palestinian, will ever accept a Jewish state in Palestine.
He said.
Never
accept.
Wow.
So, yeah, there is that. And remember, I told you, they are the ones that say from the river to the sea. They want to get rid of all Israelis, all Jews, not leaving any behind. So I wanted to show you what happened when Chase Iron Eyes and Tara Houska went to Palestine with these BDSM people that are connected to the Justice Delegation with Linda Sarsour and Chase Iron Eyes. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the two of the people that were with that delegation from the Center for Constitutional Rights, the place that sponsored that event we just showed moments ago, were arrested. One of them, Columbia University's Catherine Frank, and also Vincent Warren, the director of the Center for Constitutional Rights, the executive director. Here's a clip from Democracy Now! Where they talk about getting arrested and deported from Israel while they were there with Chase Iron Eyes and Tara Houska. Here it is.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
Well, we turn now to Israel, where 2 U.S. human rights lawyers were detained Sunday for 14 hours at Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion International Airport before being deported back to the United States. Columbia University's Catherine Franke and Center for Constitutional Rights President Vince Warren were repeatedly questioned about their associations with groups critical of Israel. They were part of a delegation of American civil rights activists heading to Israel to learn about the human rights situation and meet with local activists. They arrived back in New York City early Monday. Earlier this year, Israel published a blacklist of 20 different organizations worldwide whose members are being banned from entering the country over their group support for BDS, the nonviolent boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement targeting Israel over its treatment of Palestinians. Among the groups whose members are banned from entering Israel are Jewish Voice for Peace, National Students for Justice in Palestine, the American Friends Service Committee, American Muslims for Palestine, Code Pink, and the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights, as well as Palestinian solidarity groups in France, Italy, Norway, Sweden, Britain, Chile, and South Africa.
This comes just days after Israeli soldiers shot and killed 3 Palestinian protesters and wounded hundreds more on Friday when the soldiers and snipers opened fire during the Palestinians' weekly nonviolent protest near the Gaza border. On Saturday, a 4th protester died after succumbing to his wounds. The nonviolent protest demanding the right for Palestinian refugees to return to their land began on March 30th. Since then, the Israeli military has killed at least 42 Palestinians, including 2 journalists, and injured thousands more. No Israeli soldiers or civilians have been injured in the nonviolent protests. Israel's bloody crackdown has sparked international condemnation. We're joined now by the 2, I guess you could say, deportees. Vince Warren and Catherine Franke are here in our New York studio. Vince Warren, who is leading the delegation, executive director of the Center for Constitutional Rights, and Catherine Franke is a professor of law, gender, and sexuality studies at Columbia University. She's faculty director of the Public Rights Private Conscience Project and a member of the executive committee of the Center for Palestine Studies. We welcome you both back to Democracy Now! Vince, what happened? When did you fly into Israel?
We flew in Saturday evening, and we had a delegation of folks that were coming with us. And having done this before, getting into Israel...
You did this just a few years ago?
We did this first in 2016, where we actually brought legal academics and other folks that were in the legal field. This delegation was actually about black and brown thought leaders and civil rights leaders in the communities, people that had worked on Dakota Access Pipeline, people that had been key in Ferguson and taken that fight to Geneva, folks that had been doing work in the South. So we flew out on Saturday evening, and we arrived in Tel Aviv on Sunday morning. And Sunday morning, morning, that's when we found out, as we got the delegates through, that we found out that Catherine and I had been singled out to be detained.
And Catherine, you were the first to be detained and questioned. Tell us what happened.
Well, the curious thing is that Vince and I had already been cleared through immigration, and we were waiting on the other side for the rest of the delegates to come through. And an immigration official comes out and drags the two of us back in. And at that point, I was interrogated for over an hour by the Israeli immigration officials, where they screamed at me, "You're lying, you're here to promote BDS in Palestine." And I said, "I'm not," which is, it's kind of ludicrous. You don't promote BDS in Palestine.
Explain BDS very quickly.
The boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement is a movement that's grown from civil society actors in Palestine to the rest of the world as a form of action to protest the human rights violations of the committed by the Israeli government. So BDS takes place elsewhere, not in Palestine. But in any event, that's not what the delegation was about. We were there to witness and testify to the kinds of human rights violations we were seeing there, not to engage in any BDS-related activity.
Now, they actually showed you on a cell phone, some right-wing site about you?
They did. They did. After he said, "Aren't you here to promote BDS in Palestine?" And I said, "Absolutely not." He held up his phone where they had Googled me, and there are these right-wing trolling sites that have all sorts of false things that say I'm, committed to the destruction of Israel, I'm anti-Semitic, I hate Jews, I want to kill Jews. None of that is true. And he said, "See, you're lying. You're lying to me because you're here to promote BDS in Palestine." And I said, "I'm absolutely not here to do that. We're here as tourists." Political tourists, to be sure, but tourists. And at that point, two other guys started yelling at me that I was a liar and that they were going to deport me and ban me permanently for life from entering Israel.
So how long were you held for?
14 hours.
How long were you questioned?
About an hour.
Of that time? Mm-hmm. And did they tell you then, "We are deporting you"?
He said he was deporting me, and then later he came back out and said, "Well, if you tell me more about your delegation and about the other people on the delegation, basically give them intelligence about the other people on the delegation, I'll think about not deporting you." And I said, "I've told you the truth about everything." And then he started in again about how I was lying.
And that's actually where my interrogation picked up, because after they interrogated Catherine, they pointed to Catherine and saying, "Why are you traveling with someone who's the head of the BDS movement in the United States?" Which was, is ridiculous. But then they also were asking me a lot of questions about who was on the delegation, where were they going, that sort of thing. So they were really trolling for information. And part of the thing that's important is that in these spaces, you really shouldn't and can't give information about where the delegation is going, because we want to keep those people safe, and we want them to, and as well as the people that they're visiting with. And there are 20 or 30 different organizations, both Palestinian and Israeli, that they were looking at. They moved us to a secure detention area. We were separated. I was taken in a van to a cell, an immigration detention cell, where I was held for about 4.5 hours in that cell before Catherine and I were reunited. Interestingly enough, virtually everybody in that cell, other than myself, was Ukrainian and Russian. And so my Russian is not that good, so I didn't really communicate other than in sign language, but I communicated enough to know that some of those folks had been there for 3 days and didn't know when they were going to be going home. And so my takeaway from this was, this is the type of things that people trying to immigrate into a country like Israel or the United States have to deal with all the time. And as horrible as it was to be there for a number of hours and to be questioned, we have to be mindful that in the immigration fights, this is happening to people all over the place. This is not a sort of a temporary transaction. This is a real incursion, I think, into liberty and dignity, just for people who want to be able to transit and to live their lives.
And in terms of your deportation, did it get any coverage in the Israeli press at all? Or?
Well, we're getting inquiries now from the Israeli press, and so I think they're interested in, I guess, hearing our side of the story. I'm sure some of them already have their side of the story, but we're starting to get inquiries into that as well.
And how are you planning to challenge this deportation?
Well, we're looking into it because it was, as Catherine mentioned, it was totally untrue. It was based on all of these lies and conclusions. So I think we're looking into what we can do about that.
It also, though, Catherine, does seem to signal the increasing desperation of the Israeli government in trying to stop the BDS movement, doesn't it, to some degree?
Well, they pride themselves as being supposedly the only democracy in the Middle East, but they're a democracy supposedly that represses free speech within Israel itself, within the West Bank, and punishes civil rights defenders or human rights defenders like ourselves by not letting us come and witness what's going on there. That, to me, doesn't sound like a democracy. You know, the curious thing is, as we're sitting in detention, and actually while I was being interrogated, the president of Columbia University walked right by us. He was leaving the country while we were in the airport. He didn't know we were there, so it's not that he, shunned me in any way. But Columbia University is planning on or thinking about opening up a global center in Tel Aviv, a center that faculty and students at Columbia University cannot visit, myself most prominently now. Part of why I was in...
this is Lee Bollinger.
Lee Bollinger.
Were you able to say hello to him?
No, I didn't see him. I heard about it afterwards when I got home, that he was traveling through the airport the same time we were there. I would like to think that Lee would have reached out had he known I was there.
That's one of my employees.
He's a good person. Yeah. But part of what I had planned to do while I was in Israel was visit with graduate students, both in Haifa and in Ramallah, who actually can't come to Columbia right now to work with me because they can't get, the one in Ramallah cannot get a permit from the Israelis to visit the United States. And so I can't work with my own graduate students because of this ban and because of the enormous travel restrictions that are placed on Palestinians.
So in January, Israel published a list of 20 international groups, many of them affiliated with the BDS movement, that are banned from entering the country. Israel's Ministry of Strategic Affairs, Gilad Erdan, whose office published the list, said that the list signaled that Israel has shifted, quote, from defense to offense. He went on to say, boycott organizations need to know that Israel will act against them and will not allow them to enter its territory in order to harm its citizens. Professor Franke, can you respond?
Well, the curious thing is then deciding about who they ought to let in and who they shouldn't let in and what their security interests are. The security personnel of the Israeli government have assigned to private, right-wing, unreliable trolls the job of deciding who is a security risk and who isn't. That's the folks that they Googled when they held up the phone to me and said, look, you're committed to the destruction of the state of Israel, right? So it's actually a kind of hack way to be doing their own security project by allowing these websites to decide who to admit and who not to admit. But it's quite clear that they are very worried about a peaceful mode of resistance, which is the boycott movement. And they've really ratcheted up the ways in which they're excluding people from entering.
Vince, I wanted to ask you, interestingly, those who remember the boycott and divestment movement against the South African white minority regime, even the South African government didn't go to this kind of extreme for people who were opposed to its policies.
No, that's definitely true. I really cut my political teeth in college, and I was one of the leaders in my college to get the school to divest from holdings in South Africa. But you're right. I mean, the political situation was a little bit different because there was also not only a divestment movement, but there was also people were not traveling to the country, at least officially, to get in. I'm sure that if they had been, that the South African government might have taken this role. But what is interesting about Israel is that it is a fluid situation. I think it has also captured the international attention the way that South Africa has. And I think the big challenge now in the information age, which we didn't have back in 1980-something, is how do we stay in touch and support the work that's happening on the ground from a place like the United States, which would include also working in country with students and with activists to make sure that, if nothing else, the actual stories get out to the international community.
I mean, we're talking about a moment now of severe crisis, not that in recent years it hasn't been, but in Gaza. Since March 30th, this massive, nonviolent, ongoing protest at the wall between Israel and Gaza. Nonviolent protesters gunned down by the Israeli military, more than 40 of them at this point. 2 journalists, Palestinian journalists, as we described the picture of, showing the picture of one of them with a very clear press sign on him. These protests continuing up through May 15th, the 70th anniversary of the founding of Israel, what Palestinians call the Nakba, when they were so many hundreds of thousands of them were expelled. Were you planning to go to Gaza?
No, we were not planning to go to Gaza, and mostly because you can't get into Gaza, number one. Number two, that the delegation were people that had not been to the region before, mostly. And so we were looking primarily to have them interact with folks in Israel and in the West Bank, but outside of Gaza. But I will say that it is an absolute crisis that's going on, and even in places like the West Bank and in parts of Jerusalem, which doesn't even approach the horror that's happening in Gaza, it is an extraordinary situation. This would have been my second time going, and I have to say the first time that I went, I was expecting really bad things, but I was not prepared. I was not prepared for the level of structural targeting and racial profiling that is happening in that region. It is mind-boggling, and that's why we were trying to bring people to the delegation, because people need to see this for themselves. They can't read about it on Facebook. They can't look at these websites that are characterizing it. They have to see for themselves.
And certainly it's astounding the lack of coverage of what's going on in Gaza right now by the corporate media here in the United States.
It is astounding, yes.
We have to leave it there. Vince Warren, head of the Center for Constitutional Rights, Catherine Franke, professor at Columbia University, law professor. That does it for our show. Both deported from Israel this weekend. Democracy Now! Is accepting applications for...
So, that video or that audio of that interview, it sounded kind of crazy to me when he was defending his right to go into Israel and not tell people where they were going or what they were going to be doing because he needed security for his group. Because he said the immigration authorities were trolling for information. Yeah,
like trolling for information when you end up going into another country. There's all sorts of customs things you have to go through. They usually want to know who you are, where you're going, what you're going to do when you're there, whether you have the means to actually be in the country or not, and be able to stay there. And for you to be defiant for the the customs officials to say that, well, you don't need to know what I am up to. It's like, you're entering another country that, that's not yours, So it's like that whole idea that they're trolling for information. Of course they're going to do that. You do that when you even go to Canada. It's supposed to be one of the friendliest places to go visit. And they'll ask you how much money you have, what are you going to do, who are you going to stay with, whether you have the means to be able to even be there, whether you have any DUIs or anything like that. They won't let you into Canada.
How many days are you going to stay?
How many days you're going to stay, who you're going to visit. We went to Mexico and we've had to put down addresses of where we're going to stay, So there's all sorts of information that you have to give these customs officials to gain entry into their country. So that person is like, they're trolling us for information. It's like
they're doing their job. That's literally their job. They're supposed to find that stuff out. And anybody that's traveled outside of this country knows that. Mm-hmm. So for them to act like this was incredibly strange what they were asking, and our connections to Linda Sarsour and the BDS movement and all this other stuff, that doesn't mean anything. BDSM is the BDS movement is fine.
Oh, yeah.
And there's nothing problematic about it or what they say or the fact that the state of Israel and Jews around the world think that it's anti-Semitic. That's what they're saying over and over again, if anyone cares to listen. So, and these are not groups that are just non-violent. Mm-hmm. I've shown you a lot of violence in this show.
Yeah.
And death. Mm-hmm. Death and violence. Okay? So regardless of what the imam says, that looks radical to me.
Yeah.
That sounded radicalized. That behavior looked radicalized, okay? Judge for yourselves. This is you getting to look at this and listen to this on your own. You can judge. You heard them. They're saying that, BDS movement is very nonviolent. They were just there to check out what was going on because they need to be witnesses to what's happening at Gaza. And, it's a fair criticism of the local media, of the national media in America, that we don't cover what happens at the Gaza Strip enough. But to be honest, the United States media never covers anything that's happening outside of this country very well, unless it's a terrorist attack or something. I mean, really, they don't. Mm-hmm. We don't ever know anything about other countries or what's happening in other countries. So Vincent got deported. Let me show you their post here. I don't know. Somebody tweeted this. Or it was a post? I don't know. It was a tweet.
Yep.
No, it looks like an Instagram. It looks like an Instagram. I'm having to learn all the ways that these are different. But yeah, this is an Instagram. And it says, no surprises here. It's at KW Ween's mom.
Ween's mom.
At KW at K Ween's mom, right? K Ween's mom says, no surprises here. Vince Warren, who was deported from Israel due to BDS, due to BDS, supports, is a friend, to his BDS support, is a friend of Linda Sarsour.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, look, this guy is friends with Linda Sarsour. And of course, I've told you plenty of things about her and her associations and why all of this is cause for concern, and rightfully so. I think it is. I don't think it's anti-Semitic to look at this stuff and study it further and try to understand it, because what was done to the people at Standing Rock was fraud.
Yes.
People were injured. Innocent people were jailed, and others went to hospitals where they were left alone to die, like in the case of Mary Trujillo. And the people that were responsible for doing it, the people that were responsible at Standing Rock, are all running around apparently going to witness that other people are safe in their countries.
Yeah.
Really? Why don't you tell me one about cowboys? And I mean, cuéntame una de vaqueros. Could you spin a yarn about something else? Because these are all stories and they're made up 1,000%. I don't believe that any of the people that are in this justice delegation get to have a pass without being inspected as to who they are and what their motives are. Here's the full delegation. There's Tara Houska.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, we know Chase Iron Eyes is right behind her. As for the rest of these people, among them is that Tamika Mallory. Among them is that woman that I showed you with that post. Among them is that Tarso. Among them is the guy with the hat that I showed you in the other picture.
Oh, yeah.
I said the green hat. He's right next to Chase Iron Eyes in the pink or peach colored shirt. Yeah. We'll talk more about all these people later. But we got to get through some other things now. I just wanted to tell you, that's who all went. That's a group shot of the Justice D delegation. And guess who else closely was watching this stuff? Many lawyers were traveling around the globe. Some of the people that defended Brennan Nastasio were out in Korea at the same time that so-called indigenous lawyer Patrick Kincaid was out in Taiwan and then later in Japan recently. And these folks, these particular folks, they went to Israel and to Palestine. Right? Well, here's some love from the National Lawyers Guild. They tweeted about the Justice Delegation too. The Lawyers Guild, to me, the same one that gave some lawyers to the WPLC.
And ran it, yes.
And it says what, Duke?
2 of our friends from the Center for Constitutional Rights were detained at Ben Gurion Airport and ultimately denied entry into Israel for the Justice Delegation in Palestine. Our trip sought to explore and then they have a link to the actual
blah,
thing.
blah, blah, blah,
blah, blah, blah. Yes.
Okay. Here is a post about, in response to the supporters of the Justice Delegation, they're tweeting at __o_, replying to Tamika Mallory, at Tamika D. Mallory, okay? First off, it says, half the Justice Delegation is comprised of Louis Farrakhan supporters. Secondly, until the Justice Delegation judges Africa, Muslim, and Hispanic countries by the same standards they judge Israel, they won't be taken seriously by anyone.
Yeah.
And then next, there was more than that one. Did you scroll down on the Farrakhan one? There's more. Oh, there's supposed to be 2 of them.
Oh, sorry.
It doesn't matter. You get the idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
People have criticisms to the people that are supporting the folks that were with this justice delegation for reasons. Like a lot of them have issues with the justice. I mean, with their associations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Half of them are Farrakhan supporters. And what are the other half? Well, I know what some of them are. Some of them are fake, phony, sellout Indians that came from the Standing Rock movement. Or did they come from somewhere before that?
Yep.
They must have formed before that, because I know Chase went to Occupy, and that's where Winnie Wong started everything.
Yeah, a lot of people were Occupy.
Mm-hmm. Messiah Sweetgrass, the woman that gave false statements against Kathleen Bennett, she came from Occupy, and I heard Olivia Bias came from Occupy too.
Yep.
So maybe that's where she found all these phonies. And she was like, "Hey, you want to come to my next party at Standing Rock?"
Yeah.
So Tamika Mallory, who's mentioned there, she's the co-chair. This is her with Farrakhan on his birthday. I wanted to just remind people of that.
Yeah.
And all the way at the bottom. And, you know, I have nothing against Farrakhan's words. It's the fact that he's been associated with, you know, as being a hate group and a terrorist group. So it's that extremism is always a problem wherever it lies. Tamika Mallory is posting about how great he is, says thanking God that he's alive and doing well, and wishes him happy birthday.
Yeah.
So let's look at Mike Harris here. Here's his posts. He also is talking to these folks that support the BDS movement. Let's have some intellectual honesty here. And this is directed at Vince Warren. He's the Constitutional Rights Executive Director. The guys that were sponsoring that event that Linda Sarsour and Chase Ironeyes are going to be speaking at from the Justice Delegation, along with Tamika Mallory, the woman you just showed. And this person is talking directly to him. Obviously, it looks like he's Jewish. He says, let's have some intellectual honesty here, Vince Warren. If you support BDS, you're not looking to change Israel's policies. You're trying to eliminate Jewish human rights. That's why you were denied entry. And Frankie is on the Academic Advisory Council for Jewish Voices for Peace. So no, you don't get permission to enter a country whose national existence you are actively working to undermine and eliminate.
Yeah, exactly.
True. And so those customs and enforcement people, just like they do at any border, they can decide to turn you around, send you home, kick you out, deport you, as they did to these folks, and even jail you and keep you for a long time if they wanted to. They're lucky they didn't keep them there and keep them in jail.
Exactly.
Investigate them further. Sean King also said something that people clap back at him for.
Yeah.
Remember, he was involved in raising money to help Chase Ironeyes steal a bunch of donations. And it says, what does it say?
Stop saying that what Kanye says doesn't matter. It matters. Literal white supremacists and neo-Nazis around the world are sharing his most outrageous statements as fact. He's doing actual damage. It's disturbing. Stop making the left look bad.
Responds what?
Honey, you have defended Tamika Mallory's association with a man who spouts even worse rhetoric.
She's referring to Farrakhan.
That's right. Spare us to bullcrap. You fraud.
Yeah, and he is a fraud.
Yep.
Sean King is a fraud. But, you know, the stop making the left look bad clapped back at him and was like, excuse me, you fraud.
Yeah, really.
You don't have any moral authority to speak here. Bye-bye. Bye, Felicia. Out they went. And it's true. They don't. Chase Ironeyes doesn't. This recent reminder of his escapades out at Standing Rock was tweeted by the Lakota Law Project, in which they are, this is true, requesting that you help send money to them again. Remember how many clients they had?
Yeah.
They had 2 clients, Holyoke Lafferty and Chase. And they raised, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
How many millions of dollars they raised. They haven't been accountable to a cent of it. But they claim, and they're flying people all over the place. Did you know that Chase Ironizes daughter, Takata, who was also going all over the country and all over the world last year, is just been and just gotten back from a trip to Portugal.
Really?
With LaDonna?
Wow.
Yeah. These people became millionaires off of your sympathy for Standing Rock protesters against the pipeline. These people just took the money and ran.
Exactly.
And this is what they want to do now. They want you to send them some money because they're going to depose Tiger Swan because all the secrets are in Tiger Swan. How about deposing Michael A. Wood Jr., Sadef Buyakataman? Why don't you depose all of the people that took the money from the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock and find out how much money they truly took in, how much money they continued to make after from their their Veterans Respond and the other stuff that they were doing. Why don't you find out and depose Bill Runningfisher and L'Oreal Blackshaw, the people that kidnapped? Why don't you depose Manape, the guy that made the order from the headsman? All those people need to be interrogated, including Chase Iron Eyes, because as Bill Runningfisher told me, he was the one that put a bunch of those people in charge. He was responsible. And in that tweet, there's embedded a video that I can't show you because I don't know how to download that thing.
It's me.
But it made me so mad because in that video, it shows a clip of when he was getting people arrested at the last child camp. That whole thing where he literally entrapped people and got them arrested.
Yeah, exactly.
And the cops are telling him, you're going to be charged for anything that happens here because you organized all of this. And you know what he said? I didn't organize any of this. There is no leader. There is no organizer.
There's no hierarchy.
We have no hierarchy. We don't have any hierarchy like that.
Yeah.
Bull honky. You were one of the ringleaders out there, and Bill Runningfisher said so. One of the people hired for the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock, paid by them to commit crimes out there, said you were in charge. So good luck with getting rid of those charges against you of rioting or your whatever defense that you're going to use. Good luck with that, because you got a lot of blood on your hands, dude. You also now you're messing with people that are close to terrorist organizations. You're going to get a lot more than 5 years for that, man. You better watch your tuchus, because you're going to end up in some Guantanamo stuff right now with your terrorism trifling ass. That's what's going to happen to all y'all that are trifling with this mess. I mean, how much money did it take to corrupt these people to the point they would be willing to throw their lot in like that?
I know.
And of course they want to deflect and go, Tiger Swan, Tiger Swan, Tiger Swan, because the Dakota Access, we already got all the information that they were going to give us on Tiger Swan. Didn't The Intercept put all that information out that showed us all the phonies they were following around?
Yeah.
I don't think that Tiger Swan can be traced to doing as much damage as all of these other paid infiltrators and mercenaries that were associated with the veterans groups and the Native American leaders and the leadership that were there.
Yeah.
That's who they're actually associated with, not Tiger Swan.
Yeah, they should be, like you said, they should be really pursuing something that actually do some good, like Carl King's accident that Veterans Respond was responsible for it. And all the people that were actually hurt, that by other water protectors, there was no case of any that I ever heard of that the water protectors were arresting people in camp and sending them to jail for felonies. I mean, that was not happening. And Kathleen Bennett got sent to jail for felonies, from Bill Runningfisher and a whole bunch of other water protectors. They didn't do that to anyone else. Those are the things that need to be investigated. But to see they're part of it, so they're not going to investigate themselves.
Yeah, they don't. And when this evil is allowed to fester, it goes on to do greater and greater harm. There is a life lost in all of this tragedy that I have told you about. There could be many more. I think that this desert storm is going to shake up everything because this little baby died in the process of what these people were involved in. And all the people around them that supported them and let this happen, they're going to be held accountable too.
Yeah.
Whether it is by the law or by society. This will follow you around forever. So all these people that have been getting close to this, they got a storm coming to their home. They get a storm coming to their door right now. Chase is trying to ally himself with this BDS movement. He's gone even so far as to tweet about the Justice Delegation conflating what happened to Native Americans, what has been happening to natives here in the United States with what is happening to Palestinians in Israel, which is not a comparison that he should be making. You want to read that for us?
Palestine is going through what we natives went through 100 to 130 years ago. Palestinians are living through Jim Crow laws right now. Border walls, discrimination, constricted movements, in all aspects of our lives. Checkpoints, daily degradation, and being hunted in Gaza.
Yeah.
I remember when he started taking on this thing.
He doesn't know the history well enough to be commenting on it. It sounds like a delegation of superheroes, but in reality, it's a delegation that, at least in some part, is made up of phonies, liars, frauds, and criminals. And y'all got to watch out for that. I don't want that in my backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nasty, and what it brings with it is bad. Here is something he attempted to do where he was, he's touching his feathers there. He tried to make a big to-do of this moment in which he was being, made an example of, and they were going to force him to take his, they're going to desecrate his feathers by forcing him, and they're discriminate against him. See how discriminatory these Jews are. They hate Indians, like kind of a thing, That was the vibe I got off of it. Like, they were going to force me to do this. But you can see in the still of that picture, that's the Israeli official there, and he's literally waving him through. Do you see on both sides there's a metal detector there?
Yep.
So he's telling him go.
Yep.
He's telling him go that way while he's fidgeting with his feathers. He's literally fidgeting with them up there, right, as he's doing this, right?
Yeah.
And what does he say?
He says, "My feathers would not come off, though I tried for the sake of our team. These are the holy lands of the Jews, Muslims, and Christians, and those who came before them here. It's a signal of honor to creation to wear the feathers. This cause is righteous. Oppression is uncivilized, and we, the United States, and those upon whom citizenship is still legally imposed, are empowered not only oppression, but war, reckless, greedy, bloodthirsty war. The source of the negative is in power right now. The globe over. Jews, Muslims, and Christians deserve self-determination and liberation here, from the river to the sea. Oh my God.
Go back to that last sentence, because that is hate speech right there. That isn't, he's talking about the source of the negative is in power right now. The globe over. Jews, Muslims, and Christians deserve self-determination and liberation here. From the river to the sea. And they were chanting that here in the United States without knowing that it is literally connected to the BDS movement, saying they're going to get rid of all of the people, just like the co-founder of BDS said in that recording right there. No Palestinian state can exist. No Israeli state can exist. That means no Jews can be there. What you're calling for is the extermination of the Israeli state and its people. Like, how do you not? And why is that the only solution? Why is that the only option? As he said, no real Palestinian would opt for anything other than this.
Wow.
So it's from the river to the sea or nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what is being, purported.
Yeah, exactly.
And for him to chant that, for him to say that, I know, he put it in a sentence where it's not in the same context, but everyone knows what it means when you say that.
Exactly.
You can't say that without the illusion being brought into the minds of the people that hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just reckless. Next, I want to show you his interview on Russian television.
Yeah.
And in this interview, he goes on and on and on and on and on about, how horrible his experience at Standing Rock was and what the Native people would put through. But he also talks about how Standing Rock literally, quote, felt like the Gaza Strip.
Oh, yes. I remember
He
that.
literally compared what happened at Standing Rock to being at the Gaza Strip. Does it not feel like this was all planned? Especially when you see him and Linda Sarsour together on these on this delegation.
Yeah, I do.
On this event coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just so that we can all open our eyes just a little bit wider into the world of Winnie Wong and all of the people the circus of people that she handles, let me show you who else that was part of the Justice Democrats that Cenk was promoting. Cenk and the Turks, the Young Turks, were promoting. What other person ended up at Standing Rock? Why? None other than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Here's an article in which she talks about it. And this is a more recent article. It's from The Guardian. And the headline says, How the American Left is Rediscovering Morality. Yes, this whole effing article is about morality of all things. I didn't use the real bad word, so I hope you're proud of me for my self-control.
I'm very proud, very proud.
But these people really disgust me and how they have tried to co-opt everything, and now they're literally hijacking the term morality.
Mm-hmm.
It's an empty one when you are making yourself adjacent to and hijacking the real fight, the very real fight for resources, for rights of indigenous people in this continent, in this country.
Yeah.
And these people are. And if they're making themselves cronies of those who have lied to the public, taken the public's money in good faith, and abused that honor that they were bestowed, and then actually misused their leadership to hurt people and even kill people, those people should not be in the leadership of anything.
Exactly.
And I have a really hard time when I see that this had an orchestration. It reminded me of what I read recently about the state of Minnesota's Attorney General.
Lori Swanson.
Mm-hmm. And how she talked about, there was a really crazy article, and I think it may lead to a lot of people going to jail, about how she was using her office to basically campaign for many years and raise money for her bid for the governor's office in Minnesota, because our current governor
is not running again.
Yep. And it's sordid. The details are so sordid, but what really stuck with me out of that was that they were doing this for many, many years in advance of her actually announcing any interest in running for the seat, because that's how they do these things.
Yep.
So before any of these fresh-faced new faces in the politics that you just thought came out of nowhere, they fell out of the sky, nah, I don't really think so. I think they've been planning this stuff for a long, long time. That's what I think. What do you think, Duke?
Oh, definitely. Things have been planned for a long time. That's why we have these so-called surprise candidates pop up. But if you're actually following any of the real politics behind anything, they're propping people up. They're running, they're running people, they're raising money, they're doing all sorts of things, and in hand-picking where it all goes. And it's a case of the Minnesota Attorney General. She was basically having staffers help her stuff envelopes and put together political events, and then she'd give them raises. And they'd get bigger raises than anyone else in the office. And so people in her office have actually brought out the information. They're trying to be anonymous because they don't want to be retaliated against. But that's the sort of stuff that is in all of this. This stuff is being laid out for years to come. It's not just instant. You don't just decide to run for office and 9 months later you're in office. No, this is years and years of people putting people in place. You know,
and it's so convoluted because Ocasio-Cortez gives you her origin story in here. You want to know what her origin story was? Let me tell you.
Sure.
In late 2016, an organizer just randomly invited her to go to the protest camp at Standing Rock.
Oh, really?
Yep, and she just packed up into an old Suburban and drove west. And then the cigarette lighter didn't work. So they couldn't charge their phones, she recalled.
I see.
And they made stops all over in states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, and Minnesota. And they talked to people along the way. And she noticed the different struggles in society in America during her trip to Standing Rock. And when she got to Standing Rock, the destination proved to be a formative part of her journey. There, Ocasio-Cortez witnessed a profoundly spiritual experience. You know, like when Wes found God?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Happened to her too.
Wow.
Each night in the camps, indigenous activists entered wigwams to sweat and pray. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Did you know that was going on?
Mm-hmm.
It's an ancient ritual for purification and fortification. She was quoted as saying, Native American spirituality was the linchpin for the water protectors there. That is where people get their strength from. Remember, this is all an orchestrated sham.
Yeah.
But she went there, didn't know nothing about it, just jumped in a Suburban, went west,
Yep.
and ended up the same place where Linda Sarsour ended up, and Chase Iron Eyes ended up. All these people ended up. Just so happened. Ocasio was inspired. So much so that the very next day, when a progressive political action committee asked her to run for office, the smell of the campfire smoke still in her hair, she knew the answer was yes. And you know what? If you believe that, I have a bridge to nowhere to sell you.
We'll sell it to you.
Here's someone else that I need you to think about because her origin story took off from Standing Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Tulsi Gabbard?
Yeah.
I want to share this article with you from the Jacobin, and it's by Banco Marcetic. Yep, that sounds right. Titled, Tulsi Gabbard is not your friend. You gotta know. She seems progressive, but she ain't.
Yeah.
Like Cassandra Fairbanks, like all those Bernie bros, like all those people that made you think they were just Bernie or bust. It wasn't that they're, anti-woman or anti-Hillary or... I can tell you, all those people that told you they would never vote for Hillary because Hillary's a criminal and they can't stand her are the same people that ended up turning on a dime and supporting Trump.
Yep.
And the alt-right. And Russia. And hell, why don't we just become Russians now? You got that picture of those two guys in the Russian shirt? I want you to get it out for me.
All right. Let me get that for you.
Because you know where that went. That was one of the other ones that was in that thing.
Yeah.
I seen this recently, and I was like, of course, the final iteration of these Bernie bro, progressive, Democrats that supposedly Bernie or busted and would never vote for Hillary because they hate her. Then they went MAGA, and now they're literally at a Trump rally here saying, I'd rather be Russian than a Democrat.
Yeah.
Like, these people are traitors to this country. Where is Trump?
Yeah.
Where is Trump denouncing the fact that these people are saying they would rather be defectors to the Russian government, traitors to their own country? Well, these are the same people that wave Confederate flags.
Exactly.
Who were also traitors to this country.
Make America great.
And, of course, the alt-right people who never have been in favor of the majority in this country of people who are now people of color, like myself, a Mexican crossing lines. So, yeah, you heard it here first. We have a lot to go through. I'm going to start off with Miss Tulsi Gabbard on my next show, but I'm going to share the Jacobin article for you so you could do your homework ahead of time. And then we're going to go through all of this information with a fine-tooth comb. I have more to tell you about Tulsi's connections to not so much the left, but the right. There's a little bit of cultiness in there that I don't know. It leaves a weird Julian Assange taste kind of a thing in my mouth. And also, you ought to know, she ain't pro-LGBTQ. Not even the people in Hawaii, the LGBTQ groups in Hawaii have condemned this woman because she's not for y'all. So you got to know that too. Everybody was out at Standing Rock. Oh, Tulsi, 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 Tulsi. All the people that surrounded themselves with Tulsi. And those veterans who were her personal security detail. Right. Ed Higgins, Evan Duke.
Yep.
Remember those? Yep. Jesse L. Nicky. Who else went out there? Who else was Tulsi surrounding herself with? A member of Congress. Who did she have up in her tent, in her wigwam? Who was up in her direct, vicinity before, during, and after Standing Rock? Inquiring minds want to know. And we'll be getting to that and much more of the details of what the veterans were doing at Standing Rock on my next show here on A Mexican Crossing Lines with Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You've been listening to Desert Storm. My show is called A Mexican Crossing Lines. Today's topic was that storm desert that is going to shake up all of these phonies coming up very, very soon. Thank you for being with us, and hasta the next one.
That's right.